Chapter 721. Please elaborate, Emperor Shun. The power of human Emperor Zhongli need not be mentioned, it is immeasurable and boundless, sufficient to tear apart the barriers between parallel worlds. What you lack are methods and opportunities. Emperor Shun and Zhongli left the river of time together and returned to the underworld. At this time, the ancestor was left with only his soul, suppressed by the Emperor Hutu and the Buddha. The Buddha was informing the ancestor about what had happened in the immortal realm. Upon hearing this, the ancestor was first angry at the heavenly Tao for deceiving them, and then became despondent, feeling that he had helped tyrants inflict harm, destroyed countless worlds, and committed monstrous sins. Judge me. The ancestor admitted defeat. There's no need to rush to the underworld. Emperor Shun's frivolous voice rose, causing the ancestor to flare up in subconscious anger. Emperor Shun explained to Zhongli, there's another way to reach the parallel worlds besides the dream path. The appearance of parallel worlds essentially belongs to the rule of possibility. And the rules of space and time, and the possibility are interrelated. Using all three rules at the same time could lead to a parallel world, but none of us know the rule of possibility, so we need a clumsy workaround. Even though I'm proficient in the rule of time, I'm not at a high enough level. The ancestor can make up for this. As for the Buddha, needless to say, he is proficient in the rule of space, and also at a high enough level. The three of us working together can open half a passage. The missing rule of possibility can be supplemented by the power of human Emperor Zhongli. Emperor Shun succinctly explained what needed to be done. The Buddha and the ancestor also agreed. The way of space and time intertwined to form something like a singularity, then exploded, shaking the entire underworld. It was Emperor Hutu who timely intervened to stabilize the underworld. After the big explosion, there was a flickering passage, visible but untouchable. Now is the time, Emperor Shun yelled. Zhongli was ready to unleash his full power when Emperor Shun suddenly remembered something and urgently shouted, don't use all your strength, you might pierce through the parallel world. Zhongli unleashed a reduced strength attack, forcefully expanding the flickering portal. This time an even bigger explosion occurred, blowing away the three supreme constant immortals and Emperor Shun. The Buddha used the way of space to create several small worlds to block the front, but it was no use. He was also thrown away, and the small worlds even smashed into him. Fortunately, this degree was still not enough to harm a supreme constant immortal. Emperor Shun steadied himself and shouted at Zhongli, the parallel world has a self-repair function, the passage will soon heal. As Zhongli stepped one foot into the passage, he remembered that he hadn't informed the people of Jojo about his trip to the parallel world, so he yelled, Empress, please inform Jojo that I am going to the parallel world, so they don't worry. Jojo had already been put on the right track. Even if Zhongli did nothing, they should be able to explore and save the world on their own. Emperor Hutu agreed. Zhongli waved goodbye, his figure and the passage disappeared simultaneously. Seeing this, Emperor Shun also returned to the river of time. Remembering Zhongli's request, Emperor Hutu handed a jade seal to the Buddha. Empress, what is this? This is called the reincarnation jade seal, representing the will of the master of the underworld. With this jade seal, you can act on my behalf, and no one will dare to question you. Zhongli asked me to notify Jojo. I initially wanted to send someone to Jojo, but you are all ghosts. Even if you went to Jojo, no one could see you. Only I, who master the rules of reincarnation and life and death, can communicate with them. Emperor Hutu earnestly said, I entrust the care of the underworld to you, Buddha, during my time in Jojo. The Buddha was about to say something, but Emperor Hutu had already disappeared, and he couldn't catch up with her. The Buddha clutched his brow in pain, thinking that it would take a while for Emperor Hutu to return. He looked at the ancestor, sighed, and decided to deal with the ancestor first. Is this the parallel world? Zhongli came to a place that was both familiar and unfamiliar. Seeing the cultivators coming and going, hearing them speak a familiar language, it was as though he had not come to a parallel world but to Jojo. Excuse me, I'm lost. May I ask where I am? Zhongli asked a passerby. The passerby looked at Zhongli in surprise, what a weirdo, getting lost even with a map. This is Qingcheng of the Great Zhou Domain. Qingcheng, isn't that Zhongli's hometown? The passerby quickly covered Zhongli's mouth, hushing, do you have a death wish? How dare you utter the emperor's tabooed name? Zhongli understood that he was in the Jojo of the parallel world, and he happened to be at the starting point of his transmigration, Qingcheng. What is the Zhang family doing now? Have they been bullying people in the name of pride, doing evil? The passerby lowered his voice and said, how could they? More than 10 years ago, when the emperor returned home, he found that his relatives were practicing demon techniques in his name. He was greatly angered, and wiped out the Zhang family and all the officials who had shielded them, killing them along with their families. The rivers ran red with blood, and people were trembling in fear, worrying that they might be affected. This directly shook the national fortune of Great Zhou, and the original Zhou emperor even fell into a coma. The emperor you speak of, could it be the first emperor? Zhang Li guessed that this might be the parallel world of the first emperor, as only he and the first emperor's system were late. However, he couldn't be sure, as it was also possible that his counterparts in other parallel worlds had late systems too. The passerby saw that Zhang Li was acting eccentric and didn't want to continue talking with him. He hurriedly broke away from Zhang Li and went home. Having no other choice, Zhang Li went to a bookstore and bought a book recording major events, which confirmed his guess. This was indeed the parallel world of the first emperor. As for the first emperor, Zhang Li didn't actually know much about him. He only remembered that because of his bad luck, the first emperor killed Dongshu Daoist, who was holding a lottery event. Later, Grand Marshal Liu, Bai Hongtu and others fought against the first emperor, only to be defeated. Later, when the two met in a dream and fought, Zhang Li defeated the first emperor. The two didn't say much to each other before the dream shattered. When the two met, Zhang Li didn't even know that the outside heavenly demon was an immortal. Ji fell into a coma, and the first emperor named 19th Princess Ji Kongkong of the Great Zhou as the new Zhou emperor. More than 10 years ago, the first emperor discarded the title of human emperor and declared himself as the first emperor, and then unified the Zhou continent, establishing the immortal dynasty. Zhang Li could imagine that the process of unifying the Zhou continent must not have been very smooth, but the details were not recorded in the book. The Zhou continent originally had 9 great empires and hundreds of small countries. The first emperor divided the empires and surrounding small countries into one domain, and the Zhou continent thus ended up with 9 domains. Emperors were demoted to rulers of domains. The national fortunes controlled by the emperors and kings were forcibly integrated by the first emperor into the national fortune of the immortal dynasty and distributed to each ruler of a domain to maintain stability. It seems that the first emperor doesn't care about the power that national fortune brings. Also, how much power can he gain even if he combines the national fortunes of the whole Zhou? The establishment of the immortal dynasty represents that the first emperor has truly become the ruler of Zhou. The emperors of the past and the heads of various sects have all become the first emperor's subjects, including the 6 major sects. Chapter 722, The Emperor's Power, Unbound by Laws. Wouldn't Bai Hongtu, the most unreliable disciple, have been killed by the first emperor for speaking out of turn? All the other sect leaders knew their place, they obeyed when they needed to. Zhang Li was genuinely concerned for Bai Hongtu. Zhang Li couldn't imagine Bai Hongtu speaking to him politely and respectfully. Every maiden from illustrious clans, every beautiful female cultivator, all were drawn to the first emperor, the only domineering figure in the universe since its existence, and volunteered to become his concubines. Zhang Li was certain that this was a romanticized account. He distinctly remembered the first emperor declaring that all the beauties of the world should be under his control. He did not believe that individuals like Yu Yin and White Snow Spirit would willingly follow the first emperor. When the 9 provinces continent and the 8 desolate worlds collided, the first emperor followed the clues from the 8 desolate worlds straight to the immortal realm, fought the heavenly Tao, and the immortal realm vanished into thin air. The first emperor returned to the 9 provinces, and turned the living star of the 8 desolate world into a continent, which revolved around the 9 provinces. Hence, some refer to the 9 provinces as the Middle Kingdom. Inspired by the 8 desolate worlds, the first emperor used the 9 provinces to collide with other worlds, combining them and integrating them into his rule. The lands continued to expand, becoming more than 10 times larger than before. The immortal artifact developed an intelligence before being shattered by the first emperor. Without the magic gourd, the first emperor could not establish stable connections with other worlds, so he chose this method. After establishing the Taoist dynasty, the first emperor drew maps, standardized policies, publicized cultivation techniques, established civil service examinations, lowered the difficulty of cultivation training, provided channels for rising in rank, permitting people of other worlds to retain their languages, but the official language had to be the dialect of the 9 provinces. Quote, seeing the myriad actions and decisions of the first emperor written in the book, Zhang Li seemed to envision the first emperor sitting on his throne, making decisions, with a grand ambition to tailor the 9 provinces to his liking. Reading the part that mentioned standardizing policies, Zhang Li wondered about the new system established by the first emperor. Before that, the systems of each country had differed, with the most organized being the Zhou dynasty, and the most chaotic being the Yang dynasty. But what about the system established by the first emperor? Zhongli purchased the first emperor's laws, and the very first law made him falter. The first law read, "The emperor is sacred and inviolable. The emperor's power is inherent and is not restricted by law." The second law read, "The subjects of the Taoist dynasty must all follow this law." Zhongli said, it was the first time Zhongli had seen anyone blatantly state their privileges in the law, and furthermore, as the very first rule, not even bothering to disguise it. Seems like I haven't forgotten what I learned about the history of the legal system in my past life. It's a replay of the late Qing dynasty history, but even more exaggerated. Zhongli continued reading and found that the laws set by the first emperor were pretty fair, assuming the first law is excluded. In fact, considering the diverse cultures and societal structures of the other worlds, the first emperor even allowed these worlds a degree of autonomy. Zhongli did not doubt the first emperor's capacity for enforcement. If the first emperor dared to unify the laws, he would also dare to punish those who did not comply. This law could firmly be implemented in this world. It fuses the law of the jungle with order. In that case, the order established by the emperor meets the requirements of Emperor Shun. The order proposed by Emperor Shun had two features. One, that everyone should abide by it, which was feasible; the other, that the order should be acknowledged by the majority. The first emperor's order was biased towards the low and middle-ranking cultivators, thus favoring the majority's interests, and would be acknowledged by the majority. While the first emperor stipulated that he could disregard the law, people would probably perceive this as his prerogative as a powerful ruler, and thus acquiesce to the first rule. Damn it, first emperor, have you been assimilated by the 9 provinces, or does your past still weigh on your mind? The emperor expanded the imperial palace into the Grand Palace. It is the only imperial palace in the 9 provinces. He should be there right now. Zhongli wanted to see the first emperor and have a good chat with him. Although the imperial palace was originally an awe-inspiring sight, it seemed less impressive compared to the majestic royal palace. The palace continued for 800 miles, containing mountains, rivers, and towers, pavilions clustered together like clouds in the sky. There were countless cultivation sites, and mortals within would come to lose their sense of direction. Zhongli suspected that if the conditions allowed, the first emperor would have built the palace as grand and magnificent as the immortal emperor's Golden Cloud Palace. With the first emperor's power, he indeed had the capability. Zhongli thought of his own living conditions, dwelling in either an inn or a tree. It was negligible in comparison to the first emperor's grand palace. Centered around the imperial palace, the royal palace is divided into 2 parts. The outer court, where affairs of state are deliberated, and the inner palace, which houses the harem and the practicing grounds. When Zhongli used his divine sense to scan his surroundings, he found that the first emperor wasn't in the palace. However, he did locate several familiar faces. General Liu remained a general, but rather than for the imperial palace, it was for the Grand Palace. As the Grand Inner Guard, he was in charge of the palace's security. Just for show, if anyone dared to threaten the palace's security, they'd be messing with their own life. The emperor only chose General Liu to keep up appearances. Yu Yin, White Snow Spirit, Pure Heart Saintess, Mo Ruiyu, Ji Kongkong and others were all there. Zhongli recognized several people of extraordinary beauty, whether they be seniors, peers, or juniors. Zhongli landed, hid his aura, and walked into the palace with confidence. In the outer court, the busy ministers submitted their reports from various regions, dealing with government affairs and discussing responses that would both comply with the regulations and satisfy the emperor. The emperor is difficult to serve. Sometimes a perfectly good plan, capable of solving problems, gets approved by the emperor, but he rejects it the next day for some reason. It's very frustrating. You're lucky you're new here. In the old days, if the emperor wasn't satisfied with a plan, he'd have had us killed without a second thought. He has killed far fewer people these days. When the emperor had not yet officially ascended the throne, he was a peerless figure in the Mahayana realm, unfathomable like the heavenly authority. He did not need a reason to kill. If he wanted to kill, he would, starting with one person and then moving on to the entire family. One expensive project after another takes precious resources away from the people. Look beneath your feet. This is not soil but top-grade materials used for artifact refining. Nowadays, it's impossible to refine top-grade magic artifacts outside because all the materials are used in the palace. Then something happened, and the emperor's killing spree drastically decreased. Still, every time we attend court, we are terrified and nervous, afraid of upsetting the emperor and getting ourselves executed. At this point, the ministers glance at each other. They were all bystanders who knew how merciless the first emperor could be. Serving in the immortal court is akin to carrying one's life in their hands. They had hugged their families goodbye before leaving home, fearing that they might never see them again. They had all prepared their wills in advance. Even though the situation has improved, who can guarantee that they won't be killed by the first emperor? Sir Dong, the Zhou district has reported the discovery of a forbidden book. Dong raised an eyebrow. What type of content? It truthfully records the actions of the emperor. Chapter 723. Empress Yu Yin. Do we have a sample? Please review it, Director Dong. Director Dong skimmed through it, immediately realizing that it was indeed a banned book. The first emperor didn't care about how others evaluated him. He had absolute power, and everything he did was right. How did others' assessments affect him? Some people called him a benevolent ruler, some called him a tyrant, and some even called him a tyrant who implemented benevolent policies. These evaluations didn't even qualify to provoke an emotional response from the first emperor. The first emperor didn't care, but the officials did. They tried everything to eliminate the impression of him as a tyrant. One of the specific measures was to reduce some of the cruel methods of the first emperor. For example, the number of people who died at the hands of the first emperor. The book that Zhongli had read earlier was one of those that had been beautified. All books that accurately recorded the number of victims or provided detailed descriptions of the killing process were listed as banned books. Trace the roots, capture the person, and send them to the local government office for sentencing. With what charges? Director Dong waved his hand, casually saying, printing banned items, or leaking royal secrets. Let the government office choose one. Plus, destroy all the banned books, including the one in my hand. Yes, Director Dong, monks who explored other worlds have reported that they found a new world. However, they are unwilling to submit to Jojo. What should we do? Should we use force to suppress them? The first emperor had two ways to expand his rule. One was to collide with other worlds, and the other was to use a transportation formation to send people over there and force them to submit to Jojo. What's the strength of the other world? A technological world that has already established mature technology for mining star energy. Send 2 monks from the body integration realm to destroy a few planets and display our strength. If they still don't know better, then forcibly suppress them. Not the first time dealing with such a situation, Director Dong knew that monks responsible for external exploration lacked power, making it easy for them to be dismissed by others. Yes, Zhongli duplicated a banned book using his divine skills. The author of the banned book remained anonymous, presumably because they didn't dare to reveal themselves. Zhongli was on his way to the inner court of the imperial palace while reading the banned book. It candidly recorded all of the first emperor's actions, summarizing them in one sentence: it's good to be a subject of the first emperor, but stay away from him. Being a close official under the first emperor significantly increased the risk of death. Even if you had nothing to do with the first emperor, you risked your life if you happened to be hit when he made a move. Zhongli remembered when the first emperor was fighting leader Lu and others. The fire spread to the small village, causing innocents to suffer. Zhongli also ran into leader Lu. The first emperor was not there, and as the chief internal leader, he had nothing to do and was planning his retirement life. Past leader Lu was the inner court, the harem of the first emperor. Although it was called a harem, it felt more like a cultivation place with rich spiritual energy. Even the streams were made of spiritual water. Unlike the emperor's harem in the mortal world, which is filled with intrigue and deceit, the first emperor's harem was exceptionally harmonious, with everyone diligently cultivating. Yu Yin sat in the center of the formation, comprehending the Tao of immortality, leading the cultivation. The women of the harem closed their eyes, meditating and cultivating with Yu Yin at the center. Some consorts chose to practice fighting. The imperial palace had a formation to suppress their strength, preventing them from reaching 100% of their power, so they wouldn't have to worry about destroying the palace. Yu Yin, I didn't expect you to become an immortal. Zhongli emerged from his hidden state to greet Yu Yin. Yu Yin was emanating fluctuations of immortal power from head to toe. Her cold demeanor now had a sense of mystique, evidently indicating that she had become an immortal. Who are you? Yu Yin was on guard, although the voice sounded familiar, like the first emperor's. But that couldn't be right. How could the first emperor have such a gentle tone? Zhongli's appearance also put the several consorts on guard. This was the inner court. Who would let men enter? If the first emperor returned from another world and discovered this, what would his reaction be? Dream Yu, sect master of the Union sect, should, by logic, become a part of the first emperor's harem. However, the first emperor distanced her for her origins, not letting her enter his inner court. Since coming to this parallel world, Zhongli guessed he might appear in JoJo, and to avoid unnecessary trouble, he had changed his appearance. Now, even if he emerged from his hidden state, he didn't look the same as before. Protect the Empress. Call for Leader Lu, a consort yelled. Zhongli followed the gaze of the consorts and looked back at Yu Yin. You've become the Empress. Zhongli smiled. It made sense. Yu Yin, as the Heavenly Emperor Queen, had the highest cultivation among female cultivators. Logically and emotionally, she should be the Empress. Yu Yin raised her hand to silence the screaming consorts. Don't call for Leader Lu yet. Yu Yin looked at Zhongli, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. Who are you really? Only then did Zhongli remember that he hadn't changed his face back. Me, of the same name and surname, Zhongli. How dare you impersonate the Emperor? An immediate reaction from the consorts, but Zhongli observed all the screaming women and didn't recognize any of them. The consorts he recognized all kept their heads down in thought and refrained from speaking rashly. No, you aren't impersonating. The Emperor's power stands shoulder to shoulder with heavenly Tao, and even routs it in battle. Just as no one can impersonate the respected God Hidden, no one has the qualifications to impersonate the Emperor. You are also Zhongli. Yu Yin made her judgment quickly. The first Emperor didn't tell about meeting Zhongli in a dream and then being beaten, so Yu Yin didn't know of Zhongli's existence. Zhongli explained, I am indeed Zhongli, but I'm not from your world. I am from a parallel world. Yu Yin, you should know about parallel worlds. The ancient Venerable Sumeru mentioned them to you, me, and Bai Hongtu. As for proof, Zhongli hesitated for a moment, releasing a trace of the Mahayana realm's imposing manner. The expression of several consorts changed dramatically as though it triggered unpleasant memories. There is only one person in the world who is at the Mahayana realm, and that person is named Zhongli. Yu Yin nodded, acknowledging Zhongli's identity. Yu Yin was stunned for a moment. She felt an unbelievable sensation that the Zhongli in front of her was even more powerful than the first Emperor. He is indeed the Emperor from a parallel world. Ji Kongkong also chimed in. She had used the Tao of Time to see Zhongli's future when he appeared. She saw that in the future, Zhongli walked shoulder to shoulder with the first Emperor. Who else but the Emperor himself could walk side by side with him? Upon seeing this, she hurriedly stopped using the Tao of Time. The first Emperor didn't like others spying on him, especially using the Tao of Time. How did you become an immortal? Yu Yin asked others to leave, only keeping a few trustworthy ones, coincidentally, all of whom Zhongli knew. Mo Ruiyu, Blissful Bodhisattva, Shang Bodhisattva, White Snow Spirit, Pure Heart, Li Nianer, Ji Kongkong, and Yu Yushan. Red Dust Fairy wasn't here, and Zhongli quickly figured out why. The charm of the Red Dust Fairy ignored genders, allowing Red Dust Fairy to enter the inner court, who then would actually rule, her or the first Emperor. With no hope for Mahayana realm, I became an immortal to defeat the first Emperor. Yu Yin changed her address from, Your Majesty, to, First Emperor. For some reason, seeing Zhongli, Yu Yin felt a deep sense of trust and wanted to speak honestly with him. Perhaps it was influenced by her parallel world self. Yu Yin didn't know. Chapter 724. Different choices, different worlds. The first Emperor was far too arrogant. To the people, he may have appeared judicious, but to those of us who knew him, he was truly a dictator. Originally, I became immortal in order to defeat him. That seemed to me the only feasible option. Yet since the day I learned that even the immortal realm scrambles to evade the first Emperor, I entirely abandoned hope. Yu Yin spoke in a somber tone, becoming an immortal is not enough to triumph over the first Emperor. It was as if he was speaking to himself, or perhaps to Zhongli. Zhongli heard a trace of despair in his words. Being with the first Emperor was akin to being a plaything. Without the necessary strength, he was liable to discard you at any moment. Zhongli expressed understanding. Even if the first Emperor had promised not to hurt Yu Yin, who could guarantee his heart wouldn't change? Before his transition, the first Emperor upheld fairness and justice. He had no aspirations to become a dictator. Otherwise, he wouldn't have endured mental illness and ascended to the Mahayana realm. But what about after the transition? He quickly forgot his original self. How many people can truly remain unchanged? Yu Yin of Zhongli's world had many opportunities to become an immortal before reaching the Mahayana realm. However, she was always afraid that becoming an immortal would interfere with her ascension to the Mahayana realm, so she never did become an immortal. Yu Yin from the first Emperor's world was eager to defeat the Emperor and thus lost her opportunity to reach the Mahayana realm. For female cultivators, the first Emperor treated them like toys, pretty and rare. He collected them all. He can choose not to use them, but he has to have them. From Yu Yin's statement, the other women nodded in agreement. Some concubines admired the greatness of the first emperor sincerely and wanted to win his favor, but they did not. They did not like the first emperor. Previously, the first emperor acted without any restrictions, wanting to act as he pleased. Since more than a decade ago, on the eve of the establishment of the immortal court, he underwent groundbreaking changes. He only focused on three things: managing governmental affairs, seeking fragments of the heavenly ladder to immortality, and cultivating spiritual practice. Since the first emperor collected us, he has never cultivated with us, even once. Although some concubines hoped to receive his favor, he said that our status as cultivators was too low and that practicing with us would slow him down. Zhongli, the first emperor turning into a cultivation fanatic, might have something to do with him. In reality, Zhongli himself was also a cultivation fanatic, it's just that he regarded routine tasks, including food and drink, and day-to-day activities as part of cultivation. Therefore, he didn't need to shut the world out specially. This was related to Zhongli's mental state, which was the highest state of cultivation. It was something that neither the first emperor nor idle people could achieve. Even if the first emperor had practiced cultivation for 300 years same as Zhongli, he still couldn't compete with Zhongli. Zhongli practiced without interruption for 300 years, other things did not affect his cultivation. The first emperor couldn't do it. He could not have been without any other matter in these 300 years. Could you tell me about the first emperor's past? Zhongli wanted to understand himself in parallel worlds from multiple perspectives. The banned books gave a brief description of the first emperor, which wasn't as much as Yu Yin knew. This topic wasn't an easy one, it could even be described as painful. Yu Yin could have refused, but considering it was Zhongli's request, she agreed. At the very beginning, Bai Hongtu, the first emperor, and I were all candidates for the human emperor. We were good friends. He was assertive and always said that he wanted to become the strongest, to become a superior person. Bai Hongtu and I didn't take it seriously, thinking he was just blowing smoke. I wonder when his attitude started to become distant. Yes, it was when he ascended to the Mahayana realm and easily defeated the heavenly demon. Easily defeating the heavenly demon is the goal of all human emperors, and it's a goal he already accomplished. He realized suddenly he was so powerful, the protector of the 9 provinces, the 9 provinces could not be without him, he was on a different level than anyone else, nobody could restrain him. Gradually, he distanced himself from everyone, became increasingly arrogant, and our relationship turned into a superior subordinate one. After the narration by Yu Yin, Zhongli sighed. Let's not talk about this. Why don't you tell us about your story? Your personality seems to be completely different from the first emperor. What's your world like? Yu Yin smiled, not wanting to continue discussing the topic. Zhongli noticed that Yu Yin's smile was forced. I am a bit unconventional, and so is my world. Zhongli started talking from the time he passed the 15th immortal tribulation. The completely different life compared to the first emperor unfolded slowly before the women as Zhongli narrated methodically. That's the way it is. I learned the law of spontaneous word formation from you, found all the fragments of the immortal ladder, used the immortal ladder to find the immortal realm again. After the annihilation of the immortal realm, the 9 provinces began to explore the 10,000 realms with peace of mind, up until today. So that's what I am like in a parallel world. Yu Yin was filled with thoughts. In Zhongli's world, she learned the law of spontaneous word formation from the Great Confucian word post, studied the way of melody from the melodic mystery domain, and combined the two, resulting in the understanding of the law of spontaneous word formation. On the other hand, in the world of the first emperor, the immortal artifacts developed spiritual intelligence, and he destroyed the Great Confucian word post. Hence, Yu Yin lost the opportunity from the very start. Now, Yu Yin doesn't even know the way of melody. Without the first emperor's permission, these concubines in the harem cannot leave the inner court, let alone talking about going to the melodic mystery domain for study. Therefore, the first emperor does not know the law of spontaneous word formation, either. I wonder what his reaction would be when the first emperor found out that his arbitrary decisions cost him the chance to find the immortal realm. Yu Yin chuckled, picturing the first emperor's furious reaction. From the way you describe it, I really want to see the world where you come from. The saint's pure heart revealed a longing look. The world Zhongli described was lively and differed entirely from the first emperor. Even Bai Hongtu dared to joke with Zhongli from time to time, something they could not even dare to imagine. Who could dare to joke with the first emperor here? That would be asking for death. Would you like to meet Bai Hongtu? Yu Yin inquired. Bai Hongtu was one of the first emperor's key ministers. Zhongli shook his head. The Bai Hongtu here was far too different from his impression. The Bai Hongtu here was calm, reliable, and serious according to Yu Yin's description. This was not Bai Hongtu's original nature, these were changes forced by the pressure from the first emperor. Zhongli could not bear to see the Bai Hongtu here. Where is the first emperor? He went to other worlds to seek fragments of the immortal ladder. Are you trying to find him? There was a hint of nervousness among the women. Unlike Zhongli, who had already uninstalled the system, the first emperor was still diligently completing tasks. Zhongli saw their concern and reassured, I am a little stronger than the first emperor. You don't need to worry about my safety. Instead of worrying about me, perhaps you should be worried about the first emperor. Zhongli, with a smile, patted the heads of Li Nianer, Ji Kongkong, and Yu Yushan, such young children being held captive, it's a shame for your cultivation talents. The first emperor did not initiate the selection for human emperor candidates. Considering himself the sole emperor, he would never select a successor. The first emperor has always been practicing hard, just to surpass me. Yu Yin believed what Zhongli had to say. After providing him with the coordinates, Zhongli received the location of the first emperor's world, waved goodbye to the women, and left. Are we going to see each other again? The women asked. Being with Zhongli, they felt at ease and comfortable. From what Zhongli had said, he did not even have a love interest. They didn't know why. There should be many female cultivators admiring him. Was it that he didn't understand romantic feelings, or did he choose not to have romantic relationships? After I have dealt with the black tide, we can have a chat at leisure. Goodbye. Chapter 725, Spiritual Energy I. The world where the first emperor resided, a world Zhongli had never interacted with, was known as the Orange Heart World. Proceed to the Orange Heart World. As Zhongli uttered the command, a ring of light appeared before him. Through the ring, he could see a world strikingly different from Jojo. This was his destination. The Orange Heart World was a technological realm currently in the stages of exploring nuclear energy. Among the worlds that Zhongli had encountered, it was not particularly outstanding. The concentration of spiritual energy seems to be changing. Zhongli observantly noticed that the concentration of spiritual energy was increasing. The increase was incredibly gradual, not easily noticeable to the average individual, but if it continued increasing at this rate over a long period, the density of the spiritual energy would be quite formidable. The spiritual energy was improving the residents of this world bit by bit. Even those who didn't cultivate could nourish their bodies using the spiritual energy. The people of this world were sub-healthy due to overwork. Almost everyone had some health issues, with problems involving the cervical spine, dark circles under the eyes, and lack of energy being the most severe. The increase in spiritual energy was gradually improving people's sub-health status to a healthy state. Zhongli pondered, it seems this world had no spiritual energy before. Otherwise, people's health wouldn't only be improving now. Zhongli expanded his divine sense and discovered the reason for the unusual concentration of spiritual energy. 100 miles to the east and west, there were two spiritual energy springs. Spiritual energy was gushing out from them, spreading throughout the world. These spiritual energy springs had had their seals removed. More sealed springs could burst open at any moment, bringing new tides of spiritual energy to this world. Is this the doing of the first emperor? No, it can't be. If such a precise seal were to be placed, neither could I do it nor could the first emperor. Zhongli suspected it was a plot from the immortal realm. Are there cultivators in this world? Zhongli came to a spiritual energy spring that had not yet been unsealed. It was located in a dilapidated courtyard. The master of the courtyard was a young boy who appeared to be at a loss, watching the unwelcome guests. There were two groups of cultivators arguing there. Tensions were high and they could break into a fight any second. We, the Cultivator Management Bureau, have official documents. According to the rules, we have full control over this place, and we request that you leave immediately. One group clad in neat uniforms took out a stamped document, asserting their legality, and demanded the departure of the other group. The others were not pushovers either. The spiritual energy spring was here, and once it was unsealed, it would gush boundless spiritual energy, enough to elevate their sect's strength a notch higher. Then, who could control them? Cultivator Management Bureau. Irrelevant. Our free and unfettered immortal sect has a history spanning a millennium. Cultivators at the divinity transformation stage oversee it. How dare a newly established organization like you try to control us? The people from the free and unfettered immortal sect laughed coldly. In this yet-to-be-revived spiritual energy era, the divinity transformation stage represented the peak of cultivation. Their sect feared no one. Once the spiritual energy fully revives, their ancestors would rise to the body integration realm and truly become invincible under heaven. The Cultivator Management Bureau personnel slowly gripped their standard weaponry while the free and unfettered immortal sect members also took out their shining spiritual treasures, glaring at each other, though neither party dared to make the first move. Despite this being a sparsely populated rural area, their actions, given their chi cultivation late-stage strength, could potentially harm civilians, an outcome neither side could afford. Despite their aggressiveness, the people from the free and unfettered immortal sect remained cautious in their actions. Young brother Tang Yi, are you willing to sell this courtyard to us? We assure you a satisfactory price, and we can also admit you into our cultivator preparatory class. The Cultivator Management Bureau shifted their attention onto the master of the courtyard, a teenager of about 17 or 18 years. Since they couldn't fight, they decided to let the owner of the courtyard decide the ownership of the spiritual energy spring. However, the people of the free and unfettered immortal sect were not as conciliatory. They threatened, the spiritual energy spring is a major hotspot. If you refuse to give up the courtyard, you will face endless problems in the future. By then, it won't be chi cultivation cultivators like us coming after you. The menacing expression of the free and unfettered immortal sect cultivator frightened Tang Yi. So there really was a cultivator management bureau in cultivation sects. Tang Yi suddenly remembered a term that had been trending online recently, spiritual energy resurgence. Many incredible videos had suddenly appeared on the internet. They were shockingly realistic. For example, a man's body suddenly caught fire, his clothes burned to ash but he suffered no harm, two shadowy figures having a sword fight in the dark night, a man jumping several meters high, effortlessly breaking world records. There was an incredibly realistic rumor circulating online which often caught his attention. The rumor said their world was originally a cultivation world. The records of ancient people flying in the air or going underground weren't exaggerated, but the truth. As the spiritual energy waned, these mighty cultivators went into hiding, prolonging their lifespan while waiting for the spiritual energy to revive. Accompanying these rumors was the frequent appearance of a mysterious organization, the Cultivator Management Bureau. It was said that the national authorities had anticipated today's events long ago and established the Cultivator Management Bureau beforehand to manage all cultivators that would emerge with the revival of the spiritual energy. Tang Yi also remembered hearing about cultivation preparatory classes. He recalled his school conducting a strange test, and after that, some of his classmates disappeared, saying they were going to study elsewhere. Thinking about it now, they probably were admitted to the cultivation preparatory classes. Tang Yi also took the test but wasn't selected. Wait, stop talking, one of the people from Cultivator Management Bureau suddenly exclaimed, making a gesture for everyone to keep quiet. The people from the free and unfettered immortal sect also realized that something was wrong, the ground beneath their feet was slightly vibrating. This is the spiritual energy spring is about to break its seal early. How is this possible? This is a whole year earlier than expected. Someone from the free and unfettered immortal sect began to shout. Boom! Countless amounts of spiritual energy hit the seal of the spiritual energy spring. The seal, unable to bear this massive pressure, suddenly exploded. Spiritual energy, formless and invisible, suddenly surged in a visible blue hue that could be perceived by the naked eye. This was already equivalent to a spiritual spring. No one knew how much spiritual energy had accumulated underground. Now it was erupting all at once, presenting an incredible sight. The concentration of spiritual energy within a radius of several tens of miles was quickly increasing. Under this concentration, some people without any formal instruction developed a beginner's cultivation method. Those from the Cultivator Management Bureau and the free and unfettered immortal sect were the closest to the spring. The sudden eruption sent them flying, and only cultivators could withstand such a force. During this process, they were also washed over by the spiritual energy and they instantly progressed to the foundation establishment mid-phase. Such pure spiritual energy, wait, something isn't right, even the most extravagant records don't show this kind of power emanating from a spiritual energy spring. One person from the Cultivator Management Bureau realized something amiss. But the current situation did not allow them to think much. In the face of this spiritual energy surge, they were like a small boat in the ocean, unable to control their direction. They were constantly rolling and couldn't stop at all. Rolling along with them was Tang Yi. You little bastard are a cultivator too. The Cultivator Management Bureau person looked shocked. Normal people wouldn't have been affected by the burst of the spiritual energy spring. Hee, don't be so angry. A gentle voice rang in their ears, and an invisible force started to slow down their pace, until they finally came to a stop. Chapter 726. I, Emperor Zhongli. May I know who the senior is? The people from the Cultivation Management Bureau and the Free and Unfettered Immortal sect stabilized themselves and paid their respects to the newcomer. Thank you, senior. Tang Yi was not familiar with ancient etiquette, but he knew to express his gratitude. My name is Zhang Li. Zhang Li casually set up a shield, preventing the spiritual energy from affecting them. Zhang Li. Everyone searched their memory of seniors' names, but none could recall anyone called Zhang Li. The only possibility for someone to casually protect them during the eruption of the spiritual energy vein was that this person was a powerful figure in hiding. Instantly realizing this, everyone became even more humble in their attitudes. Zhang Li sat down, gazing at the still gushing spiritual energy vein, while cheerfully asking Tang Yi, how did you cultivate to the 9th level of Qi cultivation stage without any cultivation techniques? Does it have anything to do with the spiritual energy vein below? The people from the Cultivation Management Bureau and the Free and Unfettered Immortal sect also wanted to know the reason. The 9th level of Qi cultivation stage was a higher level compared to what they previously were. According to investigations, Tang Yi shouldn't know how to cultivate. Moreover, previous tests indicated that Tang Yi's ability to adapt to spiritual energy was extremely low. With so many people watching, Tang Yi knew he could no longer keep his secret and reluctantly said the truth. To answer your question, senior, it indeed has to do with the spiritual energy vein. At first, I didn't know it was a spiritual energy vein, only I felt a soft force entering my body when I was sleeping. I didn't know how to use this force. But as the number of dreams increased, many characters emerged in my mind. I touched each one of them, and I had the closest connection with one character. When I chose that character, I naturally learned how to operate that force. And so, I became a Qi cultivator. As for why the school didn't select me during the test, it's probably because the spiritual energy used for the test contained many impurities. The spiritual energy I come into contact with is very pure, and I cannot adapt. Zhang Li smiled and patted Tang Yi's shoulder. There's a bad-tempered fellow under this spiritual energy vein. You didn't die in his hands, but instead made use of his power to cultivate. You're really lucky. The people from the Cultivation Management Bureau accepted Tang Yi's explanation. Indeed, the spiritual energy erupting from the spiritual energy vein is extraordinary, it's even purer than the spiritual energy in the highest quality spirit stone. People from the Free and Unfettered Immortal sect thought of something else. Senior Zhang Li, we should leave here quickly. What's wrong? This spiritual energy vein surpasses any record in ancient books. It is unprecedented. Whoever can obtain this spiritual energy vein can instantly achieve unprecedented power and become the world hegemon. Not to mention, this spiritual energy has the effect of breaking through bottlenecks. Let alone anything else, the ancestors of our Free and Unfettered Immortal sect, at the end of their lives, might trade our sect for this spiritual energy vein. This place will surely become a battlefield, we should leave quickly. Zhang Li shook his head, pointing to the sky, they're already here. Everyone looked up and noticed that during their conversation, several figures had turned into shooting stars, hurrying towards their location. That's Master Ban Zhen, the Supreme Elder of the Broken Delusion sect. I thought he had transitioned decades ago, how is he still alive? A person from the Free and Unfettered Immortal sect pointed at a raggedly dressed, scar-covered, ugly old man. The Broken Delusion sect preached that the more injured you are, the more reality you live in. And there's Taoist Wildfire of the Dao Yan sect, the youngest and most talented disciple of the sect's founder. It is said that his cultivation has already surpassed his master. Taoist Wildfire rode on a flying sword, his hair peppered with white, exuding an approachability aura. And there is our ancestor, the Heaven Mountain Guest, etc. The person next to him is the Heaven Mountain Guest's brother, the Free and Unfettered Guest. Is it not said that the Free and Unfettered Guest has attained immortality? The people from the Free and Unfettered Immortal sect were shocked. Their sect actually had 2 God transformation stage cultivators. Our bureau director, the Red Emperor's son, is also here, the people from the Cultivation Management Bureau excitedly said. The Red Emperor's son, known as the #1 cultivator of the end of Dharma era, became a God transformation stage cultivator even when the spiritual energy was the most scarce. Among the imminent God transformation stage cultivators, the Red Emperor's son's youth was his biggest advantage. A flood dragon roared and leapt out of the sea. The sea race, that is the great sage Lan of the Southern Sea, who is reportedly only half a step away from becoming a dragon. More and more God transformation stage cultivators are gathering here, some of them are unknown, obviously, they are hidden cultivators. Even the hidden cultivators can't resist the temptation of breaking through to the divinity transformation stage. It's over. We were planning to explain the resurgence of spiritual energy to the public slowly, but now the news has broken out all at once, said someone from the Cultivator Management Bureau dejectedly. There's no way to hide it from how many people have witnessed the scene today. The Crimson Emperor looked around and said solemnly, I would like to ask all seniors to leave this place. Haven't you all forgotten the agreement with the Management Bureau to hide the existence of cultivators as much as possible? After you leave, we can sit down and discuss the ownership of this spiritual energy spring. Master Ban sneered, Crimson Emperor, when we leave, are you staying here? If you want to monopolize this spiritual energy spring, just say it. What's with this shroud of secrecy? The Wildfire Taoist stood by Master Ban's side. We abide by the agreement as a respect to you. Now if we don't give you that respect, what can you possibly do? I've said it before, the Crimson Emperor wants to monopolize the world. Just by the name, Cultivator Management Bureau, one can tell that it aims to control us. Replied Tianxian and Xiaoyaoguo in unison. The South Sea Saint Lanlin exuded a faint aura of a real dragon. Crimson Emperor, when I represented the Sea Clan and swore not to step on land, I asked you for a blank condition. Now I want to fulfill that condition. I demand the Management Bureau to hand over this spiritual energy spring to me. The Crimson Emperor frowned, so it seems, all the seniors are unwilling to leave. In that case, let's follow the rules of the cultivation world, survival of the fittest. He had long seen that none of them were peaceful, and this opportunity was right to teach them a lesson. Let them know how he earned his reputation as the top cultivator in this end of Dharma era. 1,000 miles of crimson earth. The Crimson Emperor no longer hid his skills. The inheritance he received was from the Drought Demon. Eye of broken delusion. Master Ban's forehead revealed a sideways eye that could glimpse the truth and see the opponent's weaknesses. A wisp of gray flame appeared on the tip of the Wildfire Taoist's finger. This was his Robert's fire, which could burn the enemy's spiritual energy until it ran out. This was a fight to the death. Hidden dragon, do not use. The South Sea Saint Lanlin had a shadow of a real dragon emerging from his back, as if it could turn into a real dragon at any time. God Shadow Thunders. An unnamed god transformation stage cultivator proficient in thunder magic summoned the sky full of thunder, changing the course of the day. Several god transformation auras stimulated to the extreme, just like the reappearance of mythology, setting off a sensation in the world. The ordinary people in the city watched this scene, dumbfounded, faithfully recorded this scene with their mobile phones. Today, I obtained a fragment of the heavenly staircase to immortality. I should have been happy, but some insects are making such clamor, what a killjoy. An awe-inspiring and terrifying voice came from the spiritual energy spring, like a Xi'an king who lives high in the 9 heavens, overlooking the world of men. You all should be punished. The air solidified, and the spells dissipated. The voice contained unquestionable killing intent. All the god transformation stage cultivators, though they were the peak of the Orange Heart world, felt their courage drained at this moment, unable to muster any resistance. As if the owner of that voice was a born ruler, having absolute control over anyone. Run, must escape. The god transformation stage cultivators wanted to escape, but their bodies didn't respond at all, faithfully waiting for the Emperor's executioner's blade to fall. A man in Emperor's robes slowly rose, the majesty in his appearance surpassing that in his voice. The Emperor raised his hand, pointing at the Crimson Emperor, there can be no Emperor besides me, you should be punished. The Crimson Emperor was sweating profusely, already seeing his own death. Chu Emperor, it's unexpected that as soon as you come out, you want to open a massacre. A voice diluted the atmosphere of terror and tension at the scene. Who are you? I am Emperor Zhongli. Upon seeing Zhongli, Chu Emperor's pupils contracted. Chapter 727, Crossing Hands Again. Tang Yi had to swallow hard, marveling at how this imperious, robed man had remained hidden under his bed in a hub of spiritual energy. Just how lucky was he to have survived till this moment? The moment the Emperor appeared, it turned everyone's understanding of cultivation upside down. In this era, the divinity transformation stage was considered the most powerful. But what about this man robed like an emperor? The magnificent power he displayed was unprecedented, even in mythical legends. And yet, this man with boundless strength seemed to be on guard, watching the newcomer without blinking an eye, not daring to lax in the slightest. Even though the newcomer seemed ordinary, lacking even the aura of a Qi cultivation stage cultivator. Two men with identical appearances but starkly different demeanors locked their gazes. After declaring, I, Emperor Zhongli, no one spoke again. The Emperor eyed Zhongli warily. In his life, he had never suffered defeat, unbeatable by peers and at his own stage, until there were no more rivals left. He unified the 9 provinces and subdued the heavens. His zeal for battle only grew stronger and he achieved an unprecedented feat. He forced the immortal realm into retreat. The Emperor's only defeat was in his dream battle against Zhongli. In that fight, the Emperor conceded defeat, admitting that he was outmatched and unable to overpower Zhongli, even with his full strength. There appeared to be no opportunity for a comeback. The gap was too significant. The Emperor was not one to give up easily. After his defeat, he quickly pulled himself together and sought to make up for his disadvantage with more intensive cultivation. The Emperor had always sought to duel with Zhongli, hence his frequent visits to the Dream Realm. Unfortunately, all he met in the Dream Realm was an idle Zhongli, who had no particular merit except for enduring blows. If not for the fact that they both bore the name Zhongli, the Emperor would not even have bothered with him. Over the last year, the Emperor had been single-mindedly seeking the escaped immortal realm and had not visited the Dream Realm. He came to the Orange Heart world in search of fragments of the heavenly Ascension ladder. The task assigned by the system was to kill a god transformation stage cultivator, but the Emperor discovered that the cultivator was already long dead. What a rubbish system, with such high latencies. Just as the Emperor was about to lose hope, he stumbled upon fragments of the heavenly Ascension ladder within the hub of spiritual energy, which he presumed to be the reward from the system. The Emperor dived into the hub of spiritual energy and sealed himself off, releasing spiritual energy. After several months of searching, he finally found the fragments in the space layers. When he obtained the fragments, he lost control of his spiritual energy, causing a gusher that broke the seal on the spiritual energy hub. Who would have thought that he would come across the opponent he had been eagerly seeking in his dreams just as he emerged from the hub of spiritual energy? Without a doubt, the newcomer was Zhongli from a new parallel world, stronger than the Emperor himself, yet easily mistaken for an ordinary person. It could only be Emperor Zhongli. Ha, ha ha ha, you've finally shown up. Monarch chuckled instinctively, then his laughter grew more boisterous, setting the entire world trembling. I've been looking for you for a while, and yet you never showed up. Zhongli tampered down the world's tremors and smirked, teasing, so you can actually talk like a normal person. I thought you only referred to yourself as, this Emperor. Fight me. The Emperor, burning with a fighting spirit and ambitious desires, wished to redeem his previous shame. Zhongli flew through the world barrier and into the void. The Emperor followed closely behind. The power of their clash could easily destroy the world even with just the aftershocks. Boom! The brawl between those in the Mahayana realm began, its intensity trumped the Emperor's battle against the heavenly Tao. This fight was enough to be noted down as the greatest in history. The number of individuals qualified to watch this duel could be counted on one's fingers. The Emperor made the first move, unleashing a punch charged with latent energy. His punch thrummed with such energy, resonating from primordial times to the present, suppressing all discordant noises, even causing ripples in the void. Any past or present cultivator who witnessed this punch would prostrate themselves in reverence, worshipping him as a god. However, Zhongli simply extended his palm to block the punch. Too light, Zhongli contracted his palm, grabbed hold of the Emperor's fist, tossed him over, and even added a kick. The Emperor had anticipated this and simultaneously kicked out. Their kicks collided. The Emperor, coming up short in strength, was sent flying. Unifying divinity with Qi, the 5 elements into one, applied creation lightning charm. Using his own blood as a guide, the Emperor sketched out complex runes, merging his grand momentum with the universe, becoming the supreme master of lightning techniques, towering over all other lightning methods. Zhongli raised his eyebrows. The runes the Emperor used were unheard of. They held immense power and suited the Emperor perfectly, as if they were designed for battling. Are these runes of your creation? Zhongli quickly made a guess. These are the unique runes I created after my battle against the heavenly Tao, created specifically for me. I named them, Imperial Runes. The thunder rumbled, like a grand ocean, vast and devoid of light. As far as the eye could see, there was only dazzling thunder, blindingly bright. The void had transformed into an ocean of thunder. Not even the 16th heavenly Ascension tribulation could compare with it. Amongst the current thunder tribulations, the most potent one appeared when achieving the primordial pinnacle immortal status. The Emperor's applied creation lightning charm far surpassed this tribulation. What the Emperor executed couldn't be accurately called a thunder tribulation, but rather, a death tribulation. No being could survive the applied creation lightning charm. In this moment, all cultivators who practiced thunder techniques felt a shift. The god transformation stage cultivator who had just cast the God Shadow Thunders, technique in the Orange Heart world spat up a mouthful of blood. Senior, what's wrong with you? The man's real name was Li Xingyan. As he continued to cough up blood, he wore an incredulous expression. It's a mountain in the path of thunder techniques has appeared. Unsurpassable. Instances similar to Li Xingyan's reaction were occurring across the 10,000 realms. Unite, the emperor yelled, and the ocean of thunder rapidly closed in, its power centralized on Zhongli. The power was terrifying beyond measure. Zhongli remained serene and collected, extending 2 fingers to touch the thunder. Turning thunder into gold. The thunder that Zhongli touched immediately turned to gold, setting off a chain reaction and transforming all the thunder to gold, rendering it harmless. Zhongli outstretched a huge hand, kneaded the gold together, molded it into the shape of lightning, and threw it towards the emperor, simultaneously whispering, "Revert." The gold transformed back into thunder, the power unabated. Except this time, the target wasn't Zhongli, but the emperor. The emperor was smeared in the face by his own technique, making him grubby and weary, and evaluated to sustain significant injuries. A drop of blood splattered onto Zhongli. He caught it with his fingertip, cast a minor spell, and returned it to the emperor. Upon sustaining injuries, the emperor's body was quick to regenerate as if time was rewinding and returning him to his original state. The blood Zhongli had cast a spell on also returned to the emperor's body, assimilating all his blood. Explode. All the blood in the emperor's body exploded, turning into a mist of blood, leaving the emperor bloodless, deathly pale, and resembling a dried corpse. The emperor harnessed the power of creation to generate imperial blood. His face regained its color, his blood surged, reaching for the heavens, and returned him to his peak state. Chapter 728, Tai Seal. Taste this. A singularity, an invisible point that only exists in theory, appeared in the palm of the first emperor. Go. The first emperor pinched the singularity between his fingers and hurled it towards Zhongli. The singularity exploded, creating a cosmological hot silence that destroyed all living beings. The first emperor had experienced this technique in his dreams, finding himself in a pitiful state after the singularity's explosion. He figured that since energy was infinite, he could theoretically create a singularity out of thin air. With unlimited energy and mass energy conversion, a singularity could be formed. Zhongli, unafraid of the singularity explosion, pinched out a singularity of his own and triggered the explosion. The collisions of the singularities, explosions propagated silent ripples through the void, creating disturbances that pushed the surrounding worlds away. Upon the singularity explosion, a chaotic fog filled the air, and a new world was born. 2 entirely new worlds appeared in the center of the battlefield. Time fluctuated, creating 2 additional streams in the river of time. The first emperor continued to throw singularities at Zhongli, who responded with the same movement. Who can't do this? Zhongli sneered. In his eyes, this was nothing more than a child's game of ball tossing. The cosmological hot silence and the cosmological cold silence coexisted, new worlds emerged and vanished, causing fluctuations of energy too large to be numerically expressed. In their battle, the creation and destruction of worlds seemed trivial. The worlds were like clay in their hands, to be manipulated at will. After so many years, you've advanced quite a lot. Zhongli stepped into the rift between creation and destruction, enduring 2 different charges of energy, slowly approaching the first emperor. The first emperor likewise moved towards Zhongli. It doesn't matter if I've advanced or not, I just want to defeat you. They both exuded the aura of the Mahayana realm, colliding and suppressing everything. You have already become the strongest in the world, so why did you need to build the imperial palace and establish a harem to prove your might? The first emperor replied coldly, I believe you and I were the same in our previous lives, both entrapped by the power above us. In this world, the strong dictate the rules. I created a world full of fairness and justice, so they are obligated to obey my orders. As someone who holds all the power, I exist beyond the rules. The first emperor looked at Zhongli with cold eyes. You are too idealistic. This world is not as beautiful as you imagine. Zhongli retorted in the same firm tone, if you can't turn your ideals into reality, then how can you call yourself powerful? Their banter was full of tension, with neither of them able to convince the other. Again, both of them sent their primal spirits out of their bodies, multitasking. While their primal spirits fought each other, they controlled their bodies with the corpse-driving technique. They moved swiftly, leaving illusions in the void looking as if the void was filled with copies of the first emperor and Zhongli. The characteristic of the void that obliterates everything had no effect on them. Even their illusions were indestructible. The illusions served as statues, symbols of absolute power. Thus, the statues inherited this symbol and bore the feature of being indestructible. Both primal spirits passed through the world barrier and arrived at a mainland. After clashing for a brief moment, they left behind 2 eternal illusions before leaving. Witnesses from the void and many other worlds saw the illusions of the 2 battling. The native residents viewed them as the war god and the battle immortal. These phenomena were inexplicable and miraculous. The residents worshipped their illusions and even developed faith-based powers as a result. Law of heaven and earth. Both of them cast the law of heaven and earth with their bodies simultaneously, creating forms that could almost fill up the void. Li Er's form had grown to an unusual size, considering stars as dust. The first emperor and Zhang Li's law of heaven and earth were even more exaggerated, with worlds appearing merely the size of pebbles in front of them. Their bodies claimed enormous sizes, even larger than the immortal realm. This scale of battle often led to the destruction of worlds and the extermination of its inhabitants. Witnessing their colossal figures through the world's barrier, Transcendence Tribulation stage practitioners were shocked and alarmed, believing they were the gods who created the 10,000 realms and were now going to destroy the world. Upon close observation, one would realize that Zhang Li was consciously controlling the rhythm of the battle, forming a force field around him that blocked the leaking energy, causing no damage to the world. The first emperor hadn't expected the consistent immeasurability of his opponent. His years of cultivation only served to highlight the strength of Zhang Li. Return in situ. The first emperor's primal spirit returned to his body quickly shrunk, restoring its initial size. The first emperor extended his index finger, slit a small cut on the center of his brow, and a drop of blood fell. 10 directions annihilation. Using this drop of blood, the first emperor drew an imperial charm. This charm was extraordinary, equivalent to the sum of all imperial charms, representing the ultimate power of destruction. A black vortex emerged, distorting space while greedily consuming its surroundings. Even the void was no exception. The 10 directions referred to heaven, earth, east, west, south, north, life, death, the past, and the future. These 10 directions encompassed everything except the place where all possibilities converge. If this divine skill is left unchecked, the first emperor could destroy the world, even more thoroughly than the Black Tide. This divine skill can even erase the past, reducing everything to nothingness. Influenced by the black vortex, Zhang Li's primal spirit returned to its original form and was drawn towards the vortex. Reverse yin and yang. Zhang Li had his own techniques derived from his own Tao. He learned from the Tao, innovated, and transcended the Tao. Zhang Li's Tao had already reached a stage that even the ancestor of Tao found incomprehensible. The black vortex, which represented destruction in its highest form, surprisingly started to exhale endless spiritual energy, nourishing the worlds nearby. It even emitted singularities which exploded into new worlds. From destruction to creation, everything was reversed. Tai Yi Seal. Zhang Li lifted his right hand, with his thumb pressing on his ring finger, lightly pushed out a palm. This move was gentle and slow. It seemed as light as dusting off the shoulder and as slow as time stopping. Only the first emperor could perceive how terrifying this move was. When faced with it, he could not move his body, much like how the cultivators of the Orange Heart world reacted when they saw him. Now the tables were turned, he was the one unable to move. The first emperor realized that this move originated from the Buddhist law, but seemed like it retained the surface of the Buddhist law. Zhang Li had filled the interior, making this move mysterious and infinitely powerful. The Tai Yi seal got closer and closer. The more the first emperor sensed its power. The oppression of the Tai Yi seal made his emperor robes flutter, his body tilt backward, and his organs shift. His primal spirit left his body and returned, his sea of consciousness was in chaos and disorder. But he still couldn't move. When the Tai Yi seal landed on the first emperor, it set the universe in order. His visceral organs no longer shifted, his primal spirit was stabilized, and his sea of consciousness was instantly calmed. What was also calmed was the first emperor himself. The Tai Yi seal deprived the first emperor of his power. He was drained of energy, totally incapable of even standing. He lay in the void, sprawled out like a man floating in the sea. You lost. Zhang Li approached and said calmly, not at all surprised at the outcome of the battle. He had foreseen this situation at the very beginning of the battle. Yes, I lost again. The first emperor accepted this reality, realizing that Zhang Li had held back at the last moment. Otherwise, the Tai Yi seal would not have been raised high and then lightly dropped. The power of the Tai Yi seal was not just that. He still couldn't defeat Zhang Li. Chapter 729. There's never really such thing as freedom and leisure. You've become stronger than before. Losing to Zhongli, the first emperor didn't show much disappointment. He knew this outcome all along. Although he had trained hard for the past 10 years, the other man had been training too, and the gap between them persisted, impossible to level out. The first emperor had even considered training in other worlds where time flows differently, but it was to no avail. He was too strong, with a self-sustaining cycle within him, impervious to time changes in the outside world. The same was true for Zhongli. With his hands behind his back, Zhongli strolled through the void. Before seeing you, I went to 9 provinces first. Whether I should say you did well, or you did terribly, I can't tell. What I want to say is, you're no longer the Zhongli of the Blue Star. You're immersed in power, influenced by your past life, assimilated by the law of the jungle, no longer confiding in anyone, and no one as your friend. In your eyes, there are only 2 types of people, enemies and subjects. The enemy implies death, subjects imply obedience to you. Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin, they were both your good friends when you were a candidate for the human emperor. Now Bai Hongtu has become your subject, and Yu Yin has become a tool for you to flaunt your power. You carry yourself high above, supreme, ruling over all the worlds, with no one or anything to restrict you. Zhongli could understand the choices and character of the first emperor. After all, who didn't think of being king of the world when they were young, being the end of it all? Zhongli had thought so too, and even written novels about it. However, Zhongli chose to suppress this thought and practice his own righteousness. The first emperor chose to amplify his desires and practice his righteousness at the same time. The first emperor was also a person yearning for order, otherwise, he wouldn't have unified 9 provinces and enforced law forcefully. Being unbound, this is true freedom. The first emperor admitted that what Zhongli said was right. Zhongli shook his head. Are you really free? If you're free, why are you still dressed? Why are you still speaking the language of 9 provinces? Why are you still obsessed with the throne? Even if nobody restricts you, your thoughts are controlling your actions. Where do thoughts come from? They come from the education you've received, they come from the environment around you. The dean led us to understand the law. The first class from the jurisprudence professor made us start thinking about the meaning of the law. Professor Confucius made us delve deeply into research and thinking. These are the sources of our thoughts, they make us believe this world can achieve justice and fairness. And then, you were trapped by power and died, came to 9 provinces, and thought that this was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Zhongli paused, turned around, and looked directly at the first emperor. First emperor, are you so easily influenced by your surroundings? You seem to be free, uncontrolled, but in fact, you are restrained everywhere. The first emperor was cold-faced, neither affirming nor denying, not saying anything, and seemingly not thinking about anything. As for what he really thought about, only the first emperor knew. Zhongli continued, there is no real freedom in this world, this is the reasoning I realized after coming to 9 provinces. The first emperor was silent, he lay quietly in the void, his eyes slightly closed, and after a long time, he finally asked. You said that I was trapped by power and died. How did I die? Zhongli shook his head helplessly, knowing that the first emperor encountered the same problem as him. Have you tried to find Blue Star? The first emperor suddenly sat up. Of course, I also want to repay the dean for fostering me, and for Professor Feng's mentorship. I wanted revenge too. But I didn't find Blue Star. Zhongli nodded and told the first emperor a surprising result. I found it. Where? Let's finish up in the Orange Heart world first, then I'll take you to Blue Star. When the two returned to the Orange Heart world, all the elders of the divinity transformation stage quietly stood aside, waiting for the two to lecture. They did not yet have the qualifications to watch the fight. But from the first emperor's demeanor, they knew that the strength of these two surpassed their understanding, terrifyingly strong. The world of cultivation has always respected the strong. Zhongli was not polite, and he cheerfully told them the truth about the revival of spiritual energy. The Orange Heart world entering the end of Dharma era is a conspiracy of the immortal realm. In the end of Dharma era, cultivators hide, and mortals advance technology. When the spiritual energy revives, cultivators come out of seclusion and compete with mortals for the world, resulting in conflicts. The conflict escalates, and only blood can stop the war. Not to mention the sudden appearance of those who gained power. These people's personalities vary, and they suddenly obtain power, which is also the root cause of the world's chaos. Having seen more of the immortal realm's methods of annihilating worlds, Zhongli could vaguely guess the immortal realm's tactics. Accumulating conflicts, and escalating conflicts are the most commonly used methods by the immortal realm, and they are very effective. A large part of the already destroyed worlds fell to this method. You've fallen into a trap set by the immortal realm. If you persist in your delusions and fight amongst yourselves, then no one can save you. The cultivators at the divinity transformation stage quickly nodded. The first emperor impatiently asked, why bother talking to them, wait until I send a few from the body integration realm over and we'll see who dares to cause trouble. It's too evident, the first emperor's methods were simple and brutish, but they worked. Zhongli didn't stay in the Orange Heart world, he redeemed his promise and brought the first emperor to Zhou Tian's world. The blue star we come from, is one of the 150 civilizations in Zhou Tian's world. Once they landed, the first emperor stared blankly at the desolate site of his hometown. What happened? Why ask when you already know, you already have the answer in your heart. The first emperor fell silent. Indeed, his hometown had been destroyed. Who else could have done it? It must have been the immortal realm. To be precise, it was the first generation Bai's emperor, Yi ambassador. Him again. The first emperor was enraged. Blue Star was his first hometown, and 9 provinces was his second. But whether it was his first or second hometown, Yi's shadow was everywhere. He must have his revenge. When he ascends to the immortal realm, he will make Yi wish he was dead. Let's go, I'll take you to visit our dean. The two came to the orphanage, where it all began. There was the tombstone of the dean, and their tombstones. The first emperor squatted on the ground, his thumb rubbing against the dean's tombstone, his body somewhat stiff. How did she die? Zhongli sighed. Don't think too much, she died of old age. Zhongli said, a bit lost, even though time runs differently, more than 260 years have passed on the blue star. 200 years is not that long for cultivators, but for mortals, it's already 7 or 8 generations. Those you wanted to repay or revenge are all gone in time, no one is left. You wanted to know how we died, right? Come with me. They walked on the desolate land in silence, each of them quiet, like greeting their past selves, or mourning. Chapter 730. Do I have to pay for my food? How much do you remember about your past life? I recall being on a courtroom stand, framed, with all evidence pointing to me. Afterward, I ended up in Zhouzhou. Seems like we're in the same boat. Perhaps so is idol Zhongli. It was not surprising for Emperor to know idol Zhongli. Idol once told him that first, Zhongli of Human Emperor had come into his dreams and thrashed him, and then he, the initial Emperor Zhongli, also came into his dreams and did the same. Emperor often encountered idle ones when dream-seeking Zhongli, and he would share his combat experiences with them, of course, using real combat. Perhaps idle ones had been idle for too long because, even with Emperor's training, they couldn't regain their once natural talent and still relied on various flashy abilities given by the system's programming. We're here. This is the place. As the two of them arrived in front of the main gate, the large characters, psychiatric hospital, on the top of the gate looked ready to fall. A psychiatric hospital. Arriving here, the hidden memories deep in his mind were awakened, and Emperor gradually recalled how he had died. So, everyone else believed that energy was constant, and only I thought it wasn't. Just like Zhongli, Emperor also needed some time to react. He had lived for 500 years, becoming a being stronger than heavenly Tao, only to discover at the end that he was actually mentally ill. That was not the biggest problem. The biggest problem was that energy indeed was not constant. After breaking through the Mahayana stage, the spiritual energy that Emperor practiced and utilized was all created by himself. So, I too was once driven mad by reality, Emperor mumbled. He hadn't expected that he had such a past. What I sought was for the injustices I have encountered not to be encountered by anyone else, while what you sought was to become the one inflicting such injustices, Zhongli said. Emperor snorted coldly. He believed his thinking to be normal while Zhongli was the exception. Zhongli patted Emperor on the shoulder. Let's go. As the world's strongest, it's your duty as the host to show me, the guest, around Zhouzhou and your world. Upon learning he was mentally ill, Emperor did not have much to think about. If he was to doubt himself at this level, the heart devil tribulation would have caused him to regain his memory long ago. Let's go. Emperor was very satisfied with the status quo of Zhouzhou. He wanted to prove to Zhongli that even if his ability wasn't as good as Zhongli's, his ideology was correct and his rule over Zhouzhou was better than Zhongli's. On their way back to Zhouzhou, Zhongli narrated what he witnessed after defeating the heavenly Tao. So, there are rules to this world. Emperor had never heard of this. You've never been to the underworld. Zhongli was surprised. The theory of the 8 rules was originally learned from the Empress Mother Earth. Emperor was even more confused. Why should I go to the underworld? Zhongli had to go to the underworld to take the Heaven Sun disaster pill, a system reward. However, the pill was not meant for going to the underworld, but for poisoning a tribulation-crossing cultivator 500 years ago to fulfill a part of a mission to find the celestial ladder fragments. Zhongli had not encountered this task, so he uninstalled the system. I thought with your personality, you would rule the underworld. Emperor shook his head. I manage the living, the underworld manages the dead. If I were to manage death, wouldn't that blur the line between life and death, making people less fearful of death? Although Emperor was arrogant, he always had a clear understanding of himself. He was not suited to rule the underworld. Zhongli saw this and proceeded to explain. In the underworld, I met the Empress Mother Earth, who told me that the world operates on the basis of 8 kinds of rules. Later, I learned in the observer's world about the convergence of possibilities in the river of time. I also encountered a strange phenomenon, a black tide that could devour the world. At that time, I didn't know that the black tide was actually the 9th rule. The observer's world. Emperor didn't know about the observer's world. Zhongli was able to go to the observer's world because he divined the location of the immortal realm 8,000 years ago using the turtle shell. Emperor didn't choose to divine this question with the turtle shell. His question was, am I the world's strongest? The turtle shell prophecy answered yes, and then Emperor was satisfied and put away the turtle shell board. Later, I defeated the heavenly Tao. Only then did it reveal why it chose to destroy the world. Taichu created the world and also created 9 rules, and the 9th rule is the rule of destruction. The manifestation of the rule of destruction is the black tide, and the black tide will inevitably engulf the world. There are 2 ways to save the world. One is to become the only consciousness of the world. The other is to establish order to resist the disorder of the rule of destruction. Although you are unaware of the rule of destruction, the order you established in JoJo could resist the rule of destruction. Hearing this, Emperor lifted his chin slightly. Although it was a fluke, it proved him right. In that case, I need to intensify my exploration of the 10,000 realms to protect these worlds. Emperor quickly realized his next course of action. As the Lord of the 10,000 realms, it was his responsibility to protect the world. This was also Zhongli's purpose for coming to the parallel world. The immortal realm was not important. In the face of the current emperor, the immortal realm could not cause any ripples. The most important thing was to ensure that Emperor's world was kept safe from the black tide. On this point, Zhongli and Emperor agreed. Instead of becoming the last consciousness, they'd rather cherish the present. While discussing their different experiences, the 2 returned to JoJo and arrived in the Great Zhou Dynasty, or as it is presently known, the Great Zhou Domain. Emperor was about to make his grand entrance when Zhongli pulled him back. Are you planning to tour around with me in your true form? Emperor arrogantly declared. I do things openly and honestly. Why should I have to hide? Zhongli. He felt that Emperor was not just taking him for a walk, but on an inspection. You didn't do this many times, did you? Zhongli looked at Emperor with an odd expression. Of course I did. Listen to me, change your face. Zhongli, having plentiful experience in this area, advised. Emperor readily accepted Zhongli's suggestion. Only after changing their appearances did they arrive in the Great Zhou Domain. Seeing a vendor selling sugar-coated haws, Emperor fulfilled his duty as a host and gestured, give us 2 skewers of sugar-coated haws. The vendor gave Zhongli and Emperor a skewer each and then waited eagerly for Emperor to pay. For me to eat your food is giving you face, how dare you ask for money? When addressing Zhongli, Emperor referred to himself as, I. When addressing others, he used, we. Zhongli pushed Emperor aside, paid the vendor, and explained, I'm sorry, my brother is not quite right in the head. Who would eat without paying? The vendor nodded and kindly reminded, then have your brother be careful. Don't go around calling himself, we, that could cost him his head. Sure, Emperor snorted. Chapter 731, Missed Opportunities in Mahayana. All of the numerous heavenly realms under the sky are my territory, everything within these territories belongs to me, so why should I pay to eat my own things? The first emperor was discontented by Zhongli's actions. Seeing Zhongli reminded him of his past self, which inexplicably irritated him. You might not need to pay for eating wild hawthorns, but do you think can you take advantage of the fruits of others' labor for free? If you think you're capable, why don't you make your own candied hawthorn? Zhongli rolled his eyes, he had never seen someone who was so brazen about dining and dashing. The first emperor and Zhongli walked side by side, licking the candy-coated shell of the hawthorn, then biting half of the candy hawthorn, their movements surprisingly in sync. Their tastes were remarkably similar in this small hobby. Under my guidance, the 9 states are thriving, and the body integration realm cultivation technique is common. Everyone can learn to cultivate without any conditions, without any barriers to knowledge. The first emperor took Zhongli to a school where children were learning about cultivation. The textbooks were commissioned by the first emperor. The new versions were more universal and easy to understand than the previous ones. The body integration realm cultivation technique could be seen everywhere, and anyone can choose the technique suitable for them. At the beginning of the first emperor's journey through time, he yearned to understand the 9 states and desired to access higher-level cultivation techniques. Back then, he realized that mortals could only grasp very basic knowledge and couldn't access more advanced knowledge. Mortals do not have sufficient vision, it is difficult for them to perceive themselves clearly. They don't know where their strengths lie and what aspects they should focus on cultivating. To avoid this situation, after he became the human emperor, he began to openly share knowledge on a large scale. What about your 9 states? The first emperor asked Zhongli with a hint of provocation. Unruffled, Zhongli responded, in my 9 states, the lowest level of proficiency is the 6th level of qi cultivation. That's impossible, mortals should only be able to cultivate up to the 3rd level of qi cultivation. The first emperor was also trying to find the way to empower mortals, but he hadn't found a solution yet. He didn't expect Zhongli to have found it first. I met a skeletal demon lord in the Qin heart realm, and obtained the sorrow of despair technique from him. From it, I comprehended the 5 elements qi cultivation formula upper section which can help mortals increase their cultivation level. The first emperor had also done missions in the Qin heart realm, but he was not as playful and did not encounter the skeletal demon lord in the haunted house, let alone learn about the subsequent cultivation techniques. The two came to Great Zhou Academy. Here, the two began studying cultivation systematically and officially embarked on their cultivation journey. Have you ever met a teacher here who overinterprets your essays? Zhongli still remembered that he once wrote an essay saying, it has been raining for several days, and finally, it is sunny, and someone interpreted a bunch of things from it, saying that he was expressing an optimistic cultivation attitude. The rain represented difficulties, and the sun represented hope. After surmounting difficulties, hope emerges. The first emperor was confused. Who would dare guess the mind of a saint? Zhongli immediately closed his mouth. True, with the first emperor's temper, who would dare to critique his essays? If they misinterpreted them, it would bring about their own destruction. The first emperor said, I still remember over a decade ago, the system issued a task for me to come to Great Zhou to take the examination and achieve first place. I had Great Zhou specifically organize an examination just for me. Of course, I was the first one, but unfortunately, I overlooked that the system requirement was an entrance examination and failed as a result. After the examination, I delivered a speech here. I said that when studying, the most important thing is honesty, and we must dare to speak the truth. Since then, Great Zhou Academy has been prolific in its achievements. People respect knowledge, dare to challenge authority, and numerous novel theories have emerged here. Theories turn into practical results and are applied in all aspects of cultivation and daily life. Zhongli laughed. Do you really dare to tell the truth? Of course. Zhongli randomly grabbed a student and politely asked, my young brother, I heard that the college aims at seeking the truth. I have a question for you. You can ask. This student had excellent grades and was very confident in his knowledge. What do you think of the first emperor? As soon as the question was asked, the student's face drained of color. This was a question directly inviting death. I don't know, I have to go. Stop. The first emperor ordered the student, say what you think. Do you really think I would care about your evaluation? The student thought the other party was nothing short of mad. Just because you say you don't care, doesn't mean you don't. Can you guarantee it? The student quickly left. The first emperor was slightly displeased and tried to physically pull the student back but was stopped by Zhongli. Should we ask someone else? The first emperor questioned several people consecutively, none of whom dared to comment on him. They would even become fearful upon hearing the words, first emperor. Even though the books on the market today have been beautified by officials, how could the brutal nature of the first emperor be completely concealed? Zhongli's feather-light voice drifted into the first emperor's ear. To you, it truly doesn't matter how people perceive you. But for them, it's different. They don't know which words will please you and which ones won't. They don't dare to take the risk. So their only option is to say nothing. If I'm not mistaken, you just felt that those people had disgraced you and you wanted to vent your anger by killing. The first emperor remained silent and left the academy. The first emperor felt that Zhongli was like a mirror, and his thoughts couldn't hide in front of Zhongli. It was certainly vexing. The two arrived at the Emperor of Heaven Origin Dynasty. Once the most chaotic among the human dynasties, it had since been thoroughly renewed under the iron-fisted rule of the first emperor, becoming the Heaven Origin Domain. Is Yu Yin still overseeing the Heaven Origin Domain? Yu Yin is my empress. She oversees the affairs of the harem and represents motherly virtues to the world. How can she oversee affairs outside? Speaking of Yu Yin, the first emperor automatically resorted to referring to himself as we. Zhang Li sighed, feeling it was a shame for Yu Yin. The first emperor was confused. Why do you sigh? You're really wasting Yu Yin's talent. Making her stay in the imperial palace, how is that different from imprisoning her? Yu Yin is just as competent as you when it comes to governing. The first emperor frowned. Women are only a foil to my greatness. They needn't have any other functions. As for ruling, I am enough. Zhang Li bluntly pointed out the flaw in the first emperor's logic. If you were enough by yourself, you wouldn't need any ministers. Li Er, Bai Hongtu, Dong Zongren, these people are your right-hand men in ruling. Both Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin had the potential to reach the Mahayana realm, but because of you, they were forced to become immortals, missing their opportunity for Mahayana. Zhang Li learned from Yu Yin that Bai Hongtu had also become an immortal and knew that Bai Hongtu harbored the same thoughts, intending to defeat the first emperor. Mahayana realm possesses strength beyond limits, and the first emperor is not so easily defeated. Everyone is an independent being, they have their own personalities, thoughts, and identities. Some of them were good friends with you in the past, yet you treat them as decorations, manipulating their will. Zhang Li felt sorrow for Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin. The first emperor, disgruntled by being lectured by Zhang Li, retorted, then what is your opinion of Yu Yin? Chapter 732, the first person created by Taichu. When the Chu emperor asked this question, Zhang Li was taken aback. He did not expect the Chu emperor would ask such a question. However, this was not a particularly difficult question. Yu Yin and Bai Hongtu are both friends who accompanied me on my path of cultivation. Initially, I faced many struggles in my cultivation, and it was thanks to both of them that I could overcome the challenges. I considered them as equals to me, with no one being superior or inferior. Whenever I had problems, worries, or confusions, I would pour out my heart to them, and they would do the same to me. Remembering the times when the three of them would share their struggles, a faint smile crept onto Zhang Li's face. Back then, he had just shown signs of invincibility, having effortlessly defeated a heavenly demon from outside the domain. The three of them had a small gathering among the clouds to celebrate Zhang Li's achievement. In the midst of their celebration, it turned into a complaint session. Zhang Li could not remember who started it, but judging from his experience, it was probably Bai Hongtu. Zhang Li complained about why no one could understand how to advance to the Mahayana realm. Bai Hongtu grumbled about why that dog Zhang Li became the human emperor and he did not, while Yu Yin lamented about the Tianyuan emperor dynasty being a mess that could not be salvaged. After all of them had finished their complaints, they started drinking, with nobody sobering up. Zhang Li and Bai Hongtu got heavily drunk, exchanged drunken blows with each other, while Yu Yin, unable to handle the alcohol and not being a good drinker, got slightly tipsy with his face flushed and his clothes disheveled, making a scene around the other two men. The Chu emperor remained silent. The first time he effortlessly defeated a heavenly demon from outside the domain, he was also very happy, but by then, he no longer considered Bai Hongtu or Yu Yin as his friends. The feeling of a celebration with subordinates and a celebration with friends are ultimately different. The Chu emperor did not feel like he was missing anything before, but now seeing his counterpart in the parallel universe with such a colorful experience, he suddenly felt like he was too lonely, wasn't he? Without realizing it, the two of them had arrived at Mount Sumeru. The Sumeru old Buddha had faith in the respected God hidden, he wantonly murdered innocents, and used the power of faith to immortalize. To kill for the sake of becoming stronger. If the old Buddha was allowed to live, more people would have been killed in the future. So, I killed him. Although the Chu emperor had a reputation for indiscriminate killing, he would not kill for the purpose of becoming stronger. The behavior of the Sumeru old Buddha was no different from the demonic path, the Chu emperor could not tolerate his existence. Just like Zhang Li, the Chu emperor also detested the demonic path, which is why he had killed many people in the Eight Desolate World. While Zhang Li chose to judge the yin virtue of the Eight Desolate using the Book of Life and Death, the Chu emperor judged the Eight Desolate based on the standard of the laws of the 9 provinces. Whoever was sentenced to death, was executed without exception. The number of people the Chu emperor killed in the Eight Desolate was far greater than the number Zhang Li killed. The current ruler of Mount Sumeru was still Wu Ji. When the two found Wu Ji, Zhang Li called for Daozu to come out and meet them. Wu Ji lost consciousness as Daozu occupied his body. Who was this? The Chu Emperor had never seen Daozu and didn't know that Daozu resided in Wu Ji's body. Daozu. Seeing Daozu, Zhang Li was also a little surprised. In his world, when Daozu saw the time-traveling Zhang Li, he knew there was hope for the future, so he decisively chose reincarnation. But the Chu Emperor did not go back to the past. Daozu had never seen the Chu Emperor and thought the future was bleak, and so, theoretically, he should not have chosen reincarnation. With his incredible gaze, Daozu recognized Zhang Li's identity at a glance. Visitor from a parallel world. I didn't expect one could truly cross through parallel worlds. After listening to Zhang Li's question, Daozu explained, originally, I didn't think about reincarnation. I wanted to prepare for Plan B in the underworld. However, Emperor Shun approached me, saying there was no need to worry about the future, that there was a second method to counter the destruction rules, and someone would make it happen in the future. Upon hearing this, I instantly chose reincarnation. Zhang Li, was that decision to reincarnate a bit hasty? Daozu looked at the Chu Emperor and marveled, actually, I've wanted to chat with you for a long time. You actually have the capability of defeating the heavenly Tao. However, I was worried about saying something wrong and causing problems for Wu Ji, which would have been unfortunate. Turning his gaze to Zhang Li, Daozu said, and you are even more incredible. I can't fully comprehend how powerful you actually are. If you wished, the heavenly Tao wouldn't even have the qualifications to make a move against you. Daozu, having cultivated for an extraordinarily long period of time, had the ability to see things that ordinary people could not. Daozu felt that the heavenly Tao of Zhang Li's world was truly unfortunate to have given birth to such an anomaly. However, it was only unfortunate for the heavenly Tao. The existence of Zhang Li was the fortune of the 10,000 realms. Daozu previously thought that the Chu Emperor was already powerful enough, equal to the heavenly Tao and represented the extreme of the human Tao. He did not expect that the appearance of Zhang Li would slap him in the face. What limits? Where are the limits? Looking at Zhang Li in astonishment, the Chu Emperor realized that he was just slightly stronger than the heavenly Tao. If the heavenly Tao did not make a move in front of Zhang Li, then his strength would be around the same. Only then did he realize how much Zhang Li had held back in their fight. Zhang Li and Daozu shared everything about their world. While talking, Zhang Li paused suddenly as he thought of a question. What's the matter? There are no traces to follow for the 9 major rules, and there are so many rules in the world. How did the heavenly Tao know about the 9 major rules, and not the 10 major rules, or 11 major rules? The heavenly Tao was born after Taichu. Technically, it should not know how Taichu created the world and how it laid down the 9 major rules. Oh, the answer to this question is simple. I was born around the same time as the heavenly Tao, and we both heard people talking about the 9 major rules. Daozu casually stated as if it wasn't such a big deal. What? Who told you? Zhang Li was astounded. Exactly what Daozu wanted to see was Zhang Li's surprised expression. He further elaborated in a carefree tone, a person called Chang. Is there anything more fun than making a strong person reveal surprised or incredulous expressions? Daozu explained, I was one of the first few people created by Taichu. However, Taichu had fallen when I was very young, so I wasn't really influenced by him. The one who taught us was Chang, whom we respectfully address as the Saint Teacher. He was the first person created by Taichu. The Saint Teacher told us that Taichu created the 9 major rules, which are the eternal laws that no one can change. So, the Saint Teacher. He fell. Of that generation, I'm the only one who survived. It's always been known that Daozu is the oldest person, but how old exactly, nobody knew. Now the answer is finally revealed. Daozu was in fact one of the first few people Taichu created. This went all the way back to the dawn of the world, having the same age as the heavenly Tao. No wonder Daozu was so strong. The two left Mount Sumeru, and the Chu Emperor was somewhat upset. The more he interacted with Zhang Li, the more he felt the gap between them widen. This gap wasn't only reflected in their strength but also in the information they possessed. Daozu, Underworld, 9 major rules, Blue Star. He knew nothing about these things. The system issued a task. A window popped up in front of the Chu Emperor. It was a new system task. What task? Zhang Li had told the Chu Emperor numerous things, but he didn't mention that he had learned to control reality with his words and uninstalled the system. Zhang Li did it on purpose. Chapter 733. What's the point of a competition with only one person? It's more lively with more people. New task released. The way to battle is not only through fists and kicks but also through the use of spiritual treasures. Fighting with spiritual treasures can be done in two ways. One is by wielding the treasure yourself, the other is by letting the treasure fight on its own. Most notably represented by puppets. Using puppets in battle, you can essentially project yourself externally, which can help you achieve victory in the Human Emperor candidate competition. The host is currently refining a battle puppet, but lacks a puppet core. The Luban sect of the Tianyuan Emperor dynasty is about to open a puppet-making competition, and the ultimate reward of the competition is a puppet core. Please let the host win the puppet competition. This task cannot be abandoned. Task reward. Puppet refining method body integration realm version, a ton of blue steel stone, Dragon Clan body refining technique, 1 volume. So, we have to go to the Luban sect to participate in the competition and win the first place. After hearing the initial emperor's paraphrase, Zhongli nodded slightly. I have an impression of this, puppet refining method, the system has rewarded it before, but they were all abandonable tasks, so I didn't do it. The initial emperor frowned. Participating in the competition is easy to say, but who can refine puppets? Do you know how to refine puppets? The initial emperor asked Zhongli. No, Zhongli said straightforwardly. Then I will command the Luban sect to hold a puppet competition, and only I will be the contestant. The initial emperor had his own method of completing system tasks. The simplest way to get the first place is to have only one contestant in the competition. This method is tried and true. What's the point of a one-person competition? It's only lively when there are many people. But both of us can only refine the simplest puppets. How can we complete the task? That's what makes it challenging. Zhongli pointed to himself. Look at me, I don't know alchemy, but I still won the first place in the alchemy competition and obtained the title of the Grand Master of Alchemy. Initial Emperor. He had a hard time imagining how intense that alchemy competition was. The Luban sect was about to hold a puppet refining competition, co-organized with the corpse-driving sect. On the grandstand, Zhongli saw a familiar figure, the eldest brother of the observing Mahayana sect, the historian specially hired by the Great Zhou, and the author of The Chronicle of Zhong, the Human Emperor, Sundial. Have you heard of the observing Mahayana sect? Zhongli asked. The initial emperor shook his head. What is this strange sect? I haven't heard of it. It seems that in the initial emperor's world, the observing stars sect did not evolve into the observing Mahayana sect, Zhongli thought to himself. Zhongli also noticed that there are quite a few puppets with spiritual intelligence in Luban sect. The disciples of Luban sect and the puppets are in harmony and the scene is very harmonious. The initial emperor casually explained. When the yin-yang heaven seal initially activated all the spiritual treasures, they wanted to challenge my authority. I smashed a group of immortal artifacts as a deterrent. The restless spiritual treasures settled down and dared not disobey the commands of their masters. Afterwards, I ordered the Tao sect to glue the broken immortal artifacts back together. Later on, I thought that since the spiritual treasures have spiritual intelligence, from a legal standpoint, they are undoubtedly the same as the human race and demon race. In the laws I implemented, I clarified the rights and obligations of the spiritual treasures, including the right to marry. Many people feel that the spiritual treasures are nothing more than weapons and should not have this status, but with me around, no one dares to openly question it. Those who are dissatisfied can only hold their dissatisfaction in their stomachs, which Bai Hongtu told me. Zhongli nodded his head. In the past, the Luban sect also caused a stir because someone made fun of the Luban sect for marrying the spiritual treasures. As time went on and the status of the spiritual treasures increased, they became an inseparable part of the cultivators, and the advanced behavior of the Luban sect gradually gained understanding. Zhongli has heard that there are even strange happenings in the present state of 9 provinces where spiritual treasures are marrying other spiritual treasures. Even more outrageous, some spiritual treasures are having affairs. It's said that someone wants to adapt all of this into a TV series, which just gives Zhongli a headache. Luckily all these events took place in Zhou dynasty, Gigi can worry about them, he doesn't have to deal with them. Name. The 2 people registered for the competition. The initial emperor was about to blurt out his real name when he heard Zhongli speaking through their connection that he should not use his real name. Zhongli. Zhongli. The disciple of the Luban sect looked at the initial emperor with strange eyes. This big bloke, actually named with reduplication, seems quite odd. What about you, Shu Li? Zhongli smoothly made up a name. The 100 family surnames were still enough for him to use. Why cover up? The initial emperor did not like to play hide and seek. And then a crowd of people kneel in front of you, asking you to sit on the judge's seat. Or are you saying that you like to oppress others with your authority, forcing them to give the first place to you? The initial emperor was at a loss for words. Zhongli laughed and patted the initial emperor's shoulder. Don't always think about being complimented. If you interact with others in a different identity, you may have a different feeling. The sect master of the Lubin sect gave the opening speech on the stage. This competition is quite special. It's not only held by the Lubin sect, but also participated by the corpse driving sect. Therefore, this competition tests both puppet refining technique and corpse driving technique. The competition is divided into 3 rounds. The first 2 rounds test puppet refining technique, and the third round tests corpse driving technique. Speaking of testing the corpse driving technique, Zhongli and the initial emperor were very confident. Both of them fought battles with their soul out of their bodies, controlling their bodies to fight with corpse driving technique. It can be said that they are very skilled in using the corpse driving technique. There is no limit to the number of competitors, one can compete individually or in teams. But please note, when the judges score, they will give less points to the teams. Puppets are gradually becoming ubiquitous. The theme of this first round of competition is daily necessities. Please feel free to explore. What do you think? Team up? Zhongli asked. Team up. The initial emperor was curious to see what Zhongli could do without knowing how to refine puppets well. The competition quickly started. A group of puppet masters each demonstrated their abilities, filling the air with imagination. Before long, someone has completed their puppet. This is. The sect master of the Lubin sect walked over to the refined puppet and seemed a bit hesitant, not understanding what the puppet could do. Please see, this is the puppet refined by our joint efforts. Its biggest advantage is that it looks like a human. The puppet was in the shape of a woman, with a curvaceous body. Even the touch was skin-like, almost indistinguishable from a real person. So its function is, the world is developing and our lives are under ever-increasing pressure. This calls for an outlet to vent our emotions. This puppet can be used in bed, can be used in a flying boat, has an automatic cleaning function, uses the best bionic skin, the material has toughness and memory, it can automatically recover its original appearance after use, ensuring it feels the same as the first time every time. We named this dual cultivation baby. Disqualified. The sect master of Lubin sect quickly interrupted the 2 contestants. Please hear me out, this is the latest product launched by our union sect. If you're not satisfied with the face, it can be replaced. These 2 contestants were disciples of the union sect. Get them out of here. The sect master of Lubin sect waved his hand, calling for them to be escorted out. Zhongli watched this scene in silence and breathed a sigh of relief, whispering to himself, as I said, the people of 9 provinces are naturally wild thinkers. It's not all my fault. Chapter 734. Disciples from the union sect made a great start, introducing increasingly impressive puppets. This is an educational puppet I've created, which can encourage children to study. If children neglect their studies, and as parents, you can't bear to scold them, this is where my educational puppet steps in. The educational puppet can supervise the child's studies and check their homework. If the child is not studying properly or fails to complete their homework, the puppet will discipline the child. This educational puppet has the power level of the chi cultivation stage, ensuring its quality. The educational puppet appears sturdy, giving the impression that its scolding may hurt. The sect master of Lubin sect asked curiously, what happens if a gifted child can overpower the educational puppet? Certain children quickly progress their cultivation, becoming foundation establishment stage or golden core stage cultivators before they even reach adulthood. The participant waved off the question, if they can overpower the puppet, then they should quit regular studies and focus on their cultivation. The sect master of the Lubin sect agreed. The educational puppet received high scores. This is a chef puppet I've created, capable of cooking automatically. With a white high hat, the puppet chef was standing in front of pots and pans, certainly appearing adept at cooking. The sect master of the Lubin sect frowned, making food with a puppet lacks soul. The participant seemed to anticipate this remark, and explained, my chef puppet is specially made, it only cooks special dishes. What special dishes? Clearing his throat, the participant proudly introduced, in daily life, sometimes we long for some intense flavors but worry about our lack of culinary skills or feeling the flavors might be too bold. This is where my chef puppet can help. It can handle dishes like stinky tofu with durian stew and large intestine sashimi. The participant offered to the sect master of the Lubin sect, if you don't believe me, I can have the puppet prepare a dish right now. The sect master shook his head emphatically, politely declining the offer and hurried the judges to give their scores. None of the judges had a preference for intense flavors, hence the chef puppet received quite low scores. The sect master came up to a puppet that had a menacing appearance. What is this? The puppet's eyes gradually became lively and it retorted, "And what are you?" The sect master was taken aback and the puppet seized the opportunity to hurl abuse, launching fierce insults with audacious vigor. Most importantly, it managed to keep its language clean. Seeing the sect master's anger, the creator quickly explained, "This is my insult-throwing puppet. I'm not good at arguing back, so when someone insults me, I devised this puppet to automatically counterattack. I've collected a lot of insults and installed them in its core, ensuring it can out-insult anyone." As the creator was introducing this, the puppet kept hurling insults, causing quite a racket. In irritation, the sect master asked, "Can you ask it to stop?" The creator guiltily replied, "I apologize, but it will not stop until the aggressor admits defeat." The sect master, so he must admit defeat after being insulted. In the end, the insult-throwing puppet received quite a high score. The Celestial Emperor silently watched the variety of puppets on display, concepts he had never considered before. Everywhere he went, people surged around him, singing praises for his great achievements. He rarely got to see this other side of the general public. Zhang Li, standing by his side, reminded him, "Don't get murderous thoughts just to secure the first place." The Celestial Emperor indeed had such thoughts. These everyday items were too complex, and he felt their group was not likely to win. The sect master of the Luban sect approached Zhang Li and the Celestial Emperor, and seeing the rudimentary puppet on the table, asked, "What function does your puppet have?" "This is a lie detection puppet. If you lie, the puppet's nose will grow longer," Zhang Li introduced. The sect master's eyes shone brightly. He hadn't expected Zhang Li to possess such advanced puppeteer skills, capable of making a lie-detecting puppet. This feature was definitely powerful. On a closer look, it even incorporated elements of the way of cause and effect, a deeply mysterious art known to only a handful across all of JoJo. He hadn't thought the person in front of him possessed such knowledge. The lie detection puppet could play a big role in daily life. How many couples, who tacitly hide things from each other, would end up separating because of it? Could you give us a demonstration? Certainly. The Celestial Emperor is a gentle and kind-hearted monarch who is eager to help others, Zhang Li said. The lie detection puppet's nose grew longer, which scared the sect master so much that he quickly pushed the puppet's nose back in. Looking around, the sect master saw only Shu Li and Zhang Li nearby, and the Celestial Emperor was nowhere in sight, which allowed him to breathe easily. He was worried about the Celestial Emperor's reaction if he heard this. The Celestial Emperor watched the puppet with no change in expression. "I'll ask a few questions." The sect master voiced his suspicion that this might be a preset program by Zhang Li. "Water is deadly poisonous." The puppet's nose grew longer. "There is nobody in the world who can cultivate to the Mahayana realm." The puppet's nose grew longer. "I am entirely faithful to my wife." The puppet's nose grew longer. "Huh." The sect master's eyes widened in surprise. When did he start liking some other puppet that he wasn't aware about? In the entire Luban sect, everyone knew about his loving relationship with his wife. "I am the sect master of the Luban sect." The puppet's nose grew longer. "The sect master of Dao sect is Bai Hongtu." The puppet's nose grew longer. "This isn't a lie detector puppet at all." The puppet's nose grew longer. The sect master. He finally understood. No matter what you say, the puppet's nose will grow longer. Zhang Li suddenly became annoyed. "So you're saying I was lying?" "Yes. Didn't you verify it through the puppet?" "Yes. So if I say the puppet can detect lies, am I lying?" "Yes, wait, give me a moment." Halfway through speaking, the sect master felt something was off and tried to organize his thoughts as he held his head. "You claimed the puppet could detect lies, which means you were indeed lying, as it can in fact detect lies, hence, it is a lie detection puppet. However, if you are genuinely lying, then this puppet won't be capable of detecting the lie, meaning it is not a lie detection puppet." The sect master felt there was a logical problem somewhere, but he couldn't pinpoint where. "Wait, there's a problem with your puppet. The competition requires everyday items. What everyday item does your puppet represent?" cried out the sect master, trying to bypass this logical loop. Zhang Li calmly replied, "Do we not have someone we dislike yet are obligated to give gifts during festivals?" "Yes. Present them the lie detection puppet as a gift, and let them ponder whether it is indeed a lie detection puppet." Zhang Li then gifted the lie detection puppet to the Celestial Emperor. The Celestial Emperor frowned, contemplating whether Zhang Li was truly lying. Chapter 735. This is the puppet show, where are your puppets? FHF 5. LJ Chapter 734. This is the puppet show, where are your puppets? The lie detection puppets sparked a major controversy, mainly because the judges were all debating whether this kind of thing counts as a lie detection puppet or not. A physical clash almost ensued as a result of this disagreement. After eliminating the highest and lowest scores, Zhang Li's score stands out from the myriad of exceptional puppets, earning him a place at the top. Turns out we are not in first place. The young emperor, who has always been competitive for the first place, is teamed up with Zhang Li. Their score was high, but not being first has satisfied him. For our puppetry to achieve such a high score is already great, we shouldn't be so obsessed with being first. Besides, aren't there still 2 rounds left? The young emperor relaxed a little. I didn't expect such a method to pass the test. The emperor felt that this was something worth learning from. During his battle with Zhang Li, he found that his fighting style was unconventional. If his thinking couldn't keep up, he would never be able to keep up with his attacking strategy. Perhaps he could imitate Zhang Li's thinking in order to intensify his own strength. I will participate in the next challenge as well, said the young emperor in a deep voice. As the first challenge concluded and the scores were calculated, the sect master of the Luban sect quickly began preparing for the next challenge. This is a practical application question. In the worlds we have explored, we have encountered an ancient country named the Chu Kingdom, which has not yet developed technologically. The Chu Kingdom is in decline, suffering from frequent floods and droughts, insufficient food production, and widespread burning, killing, and looting by bandits. After becoming a subsidiary world of 9 provinces, Chu Kingdom sought our help from the Luban sect. We have sold puppets to Chu Kingdom and helped them towards prosperity. When we were helping Chu Kingdom, we used our divine sense to scan the complete picture of Chu Kingdom. We can simulate the development of Chu Kingdom. The second challenge is for you to use puppetry to strengthen Chu Kingdom. I will later give you a model of the Chu Kingdom. You can then place your puppet data into the model to observe what Chu Kingdom develops into. It's important to note that Chu Kingdom only possesses a small amount of spirit stone mines, which isn't sufficient to drive a large number of complex puppets. Alright, the competition starts now. The emperor requested the exploration team from 9 provinces to explore the 10,000 realms. After surrendering, the cultivators were to assist the development of each world. To this end, a reasonable evaluation and reward system had been set up. Zhang Li had a similar reward and punishment system in place. After 6 hours, the competition ended, and each contestant displayed their results. This is the water control puppet I designed. It can be powered by a small amount of spirit stones and can build sturdy dams to control the water volume and prevent droughts and floods. The only problem is that it takes a long time to build a dam. We need to count it in years. The water control puppets in the first contestant's model of the Chu Kingdom tirelessly perform their duties. Powered by a single low-grade spirit stone, they can operate for 3 months. Arranging the water control puppets on both sides of the river to clear the silt and build dikes, the water's storage and discharge can be freely adjusted according to the seasons of rain and drought. Once freed from threats of drought and flood, the fertile lands on both banks can be put to use, bolstering the strength of Chu Kingdom. Not bad. Although it might take several years, Chu Kingdom can wait. Moreover, such puppets are easy to build and consume very little. It's something Chu Kingdom can sustain. The sect master of the Luban sect nodded in approval. His sect had used similar puppets to assist Chu Kingdom, achieving the same results. This is the soldier puppet I made. 1 unit is capable of wiping out an entire bandit's lair. The second contestant focused on military power. In times of calamity, people turn to banditry, pillaging and robbing homes, causing distress among the residents and discouraging businessmen from traveling freely. In his model of Chu Kingdom, 1 soldier puppet is capable of fighting off 30 bandits, swiftly cleaning up bandit lairs scattered throughout the land. At present, Chu Kingdom was in a state of turmoil, with some aiming to rebel and overthrow the weak and incapable Chu King, causing political instability. These soldier puppets hence became the personal guards of Chu King, helping him solidify his rule. With the elimination of internal strife and banditry, the development of Chu Kingdom also proceeded, although not as fast as the previous contestant's model. In the previous model, the people of Chu Kingdom were well fed, reducing the thoughts of rebellion significantly and greatly mitigating the issues of rebellion and banditry. However, the second contestant's model still hadn't conquered the issue of food shortage, thus limiting its progress. Moreover, producing soldier puppets proved to be more costly than water control puppets. That's not bad either. The issue of rebellion and banditry relates to the nation's stability, dealing with it is the top priority. The sect master of the Luban sect praised. They had also produced soldier puppets and supplied them to Chu Kingdom. This is the Tao puppet I made, equivalent to a nascent soul stage puppet proficient in all kinds of Tao techniques. The Tao puppet can cast spells, solving floods, droughts, banditry, etc. It can also heal people's illnesses, build roads with the Tao puppet presiding over Chu Kingdom. The rule of Chu Kingdom would be unshakable and could flourish in peace. However, given the amount of spirit stones Chu Kingdom has in reserve, they can't fully drive the Tao puppet, and the driving times are limited. It can only intervene at critical times. The contestant openly admitted to the limitations of his puppet. The third contestant's model of Chu Kingdom developed fairly well, but after the Chu King obtained the Tao puppet, he became rather conceited. Sometimes he was a wise ruler, other times a foolish one. Chu Kingdom developed under such conditions, albeit with many twists and turns. The next dozen or so contestants all depicted a steadily developing Chu Kingdom in their models. However, none of these models were as robust as the real Chu Kingdom that has had the assistance of the Luban sect. Among them, the ninth contestant was the most distinctive. He designed several puppets, helping Chu Kingdom in multiple ways. His approach was the closest to the real situation where the Luban sect helped. The only gap was that this person did not find the optimal cost-effective approach. However, expecting to find the optimal solution in such a short time would be asking for the moon. The sect master of the Luban sect believed the ninth contestant would be the final victor. Next up were Zhongli and the young emperor. What a prosperous Chu Kingdom! The model of Chu Kingdom by Zhongli and the young emperor was unusually powerful, with its national strength surpassing that of the real Chu Kingdom. The Luban sect could not even match this. What did you do? What kind of puppet did you use? Zhongli pointed to the young emperor and said, "Ask him, he came up with the solutions." The young emperor explained lightly, "What is so difficult about it? As a monarch, the king of Chu is incompetent. I initially wanted to abolish him, but in Chu Kingdom, the king is a symbol of faith and cannot be abolished. So I selected a visionary and strategic person to control the king of Chu. Whatever that person orders, the king of Chu must do. Under the governance of this person, who is more capable than the king of Chu, he used the power of Chu Kingdom to build dams, led troops into battle, suppress rebellions, implement county governance, insensitivize farming and hard work, abolish old regulations, etc. As all the hidden issues in Chu Kingdom disappeared, its national power soared." I see. The Luban sect suddenly became enlightened. They had never considered the issue of changing the ruler. Wait, this is a puppet contest. Where are your puppets? The young emperor arrogantly pointed to the king of Chu and said, "Puppet regime, this is a puppet." Sect master of the Luban sect. He had lived such a long life, but this was the first time he felt that he did not understand puppetry. Chapter 736. New Corpse Driving Technique. FHF 5. LJ Chapter 735. New Corpse Driving Technique. Zhongli could swear by his ascension that the idea had all been thought up by the first emperor. The most he had done was to give little prompts by the side. The main credit went to the first emperor. Zhongli found that the first emperor was the kind of person who would understand everything after learning a little. If he wanted his thinking to become more active, his ideas would leap about fiercely. This was almost in sync with Zhongli. If replaced by Zhongli himself, he would also think of the same method. Zhongli felt this might be because the first emperor was also called Zhongli. After all, he was himself from a parallel world. This puppet regime of yours, the worldview of the sect master of the Luban sect received a huge blow, which could simply be said to be level 1 disability. Zhongli stood up for the first emperor. "You say whether it's a puppet or not." The sect master of the Luban sect was silent for a long time, before uttering a yes. During his silence, he thought repeatedly about whether this could be considered a puppet. In the end, he felt that this might be the ultimate form of puppetry, a realm that not even the founding master of the Luban sect could reach. Unsurprisingly, the duo of Zhongli and the first emperor attained the highest score, leaving everyone else far behind. The first emperor nodded. He was quite content with the result of the second contest, and he even provocatively cast a glance at Zhongli. In the first contest, Zhongli made a move, came out on top, and in the second contest, he made a move, achieving the first place, and the winner was immediately clear. "See, isn't it much more fun than competing by yourself?" Zhongli laughed. The first emperor's cold expression didn't change, refusing to answer Zhongli's question. With the end of the second contest, the third contest was about to begin. The sect master of the corpse driving sect walked to the podium, followed by the former Observing Stars sect master and current Wanlingzong sect master. 4 apprentices of the Observing Mahayana sect, Sundial, Nitrates, Seal, and Fine Paper were also present. How did the Observing Stars sect become the Wanlingzong? Zhongli had never understood this, and the first emperor had never paid attention to the minor sect. The Luban sect master felt that Zhongli and the first emperor were promising and began to explain on the side. The story of this matter is a bit related to Emperor Chu. The first emperor was puzzled. The Luban sect master continued. The Observing Stars sect, as the name suggests, observes stars. Facing the unjust action of the body incorporating sect that regards stars as balls, they protested strongly, arguing that the life of stars is also life. Coincidentally, the first emperor issued a code that forbids the casual destruction of stars. The Observing Stars sect perceived this as an acknowledgement of their viewpoint by the first emperor. Subsequently, the Observing Stars sect applied the same logic to argue that all things are life, and thus changed its name from Observing Stars sect to Wanlingzong. This has offended the Buddhist sect. The majority of Buddhists have not yet taken up fasting and are vegetarians. Now Wanlingzong says that plants are also life and should not be eaten. The Buddhist disciples couldn't take it. Pressured by the Buddhist sect, Wanlingzong had no choice but to seek support from all over. The corpse-driving sect accepted Wanlingzong and it merged with them, with the corpse-driving sect being the main sect. Does the corpse-driving sect have such good intentions? Zhang Li asked. The Luban sect master was about to explain when he heard the corpse-driving sect master speak loudly from the stage. Taking advantage of this competition, I wish to announce some matters to you all, which are also related to the third test. As everyone knows, the power of the corpse-driving technique lies in driving corpses. But now is a period of peaceful development. There aren't enough corpses, and most of them are old and weak, no longer in their prime years, hence our corpse-driving sect once fell into a dilemma. After going through a period of low tide, now, with the addition of the Wanlingzong to our corpse-driving sect, we have made a significant breakthrough in the corpse-driving technique. What is a corpse? Only those who live can die and become a corpse. And Wanlingzong told us that all things have spirit. This indicates that everything has life and death. Stars will die, the earth will die, and the ocean will die too. The targets of our corpse-driving technique are no longer just humans and demons, but more than that, stars, the earth, and the ocean can all be driven. There was a commotion below the stage. People were amazed at the progressive thinking of the corpse-driving sect. This was exactly the effect that the corpse-driving sect master wanted. He had co-hosted the puppet contest with the Luban sect with the main purpose of propagating his ideology. As the new style corpse-driving technique and puppetry have similar wonders, the corpse-driving sect and the Luban sect are in talks for deep collaboration. Zhang Li, First Emperor. Zhang Li confirmed once again that the people on the mainland Chinese team have big perspective, and they have nothing to do with him at all. What the first emperor didn't expect was that in the place where he wasn't paying attention, various forces had grown wildly to this extent. However, the first emperor also had no intention of stopping them. The corpse-driving sect master continued. You might find it hard to comprehend, so let me take an example. With that, the corpse-driving sect master took out a laptop computer. As more and more worlds were under the rule of Jojo, technological items began to become popular. This laptop is owned by Sundial, the eldest disciple of Wanlingzong. And this laptop is dead. There is an old saying in Zhou, much can be read from a corpse. This saying also applies to the new kind of corpse-driving technique. The new corpse-driving technique can revive the laptop, and even recuperate browsing history. Sundial's face changed drastically when he had not heard about this part. The new corpse-driving technique really works wonderfully. The corpse-driving sect master resurrected the laptop indeed and restored Sundial's browsing history. This isn't technology but Taoist magic. Let's see what Sundial has been browsing, the official website of the Union sect, well. After showcasing the wonders of the new corpse-driving technique, the corpse-driving sect master sent everyone a beginner's guide to the new corpse-driving technique along with a cubic meter iron block. The third test is to see your understanding of the new corpse-driving technique. These iron blocks have been killed by me. Please feel free to use them. Drive the iron block using the new corpse-driving technique. What's up? What do you want from me? The corpse-driving sect master was halfway through when someone approached him. The newcomer showed his badge. We are the law enforcers of the Immortal Dynasty. We received a report from the public stating that your corpse-driving sect has been harming living beings in order to cultivate the corpse-driving technique. Please come with us. Hey, what have I harmed? The corpse-driving sect master was confused. He had always abided by the law, and the corpse-driving sect's practice of the corpse-driving technique was registered with the Immortal Dynasty. An anonymous citizen reported saying that you've been promoting everywhere that everything can be killed, and the more you kill, the more proficient you become in the corpse driving technique, as well as harmful speeches such as, I have already killed who and who. Just now, we heard from afar that, something, has been killed by you. According to the registration of the corpse driving sect, you cannot actively cause death. This is a misunderstanding, listen to my explanation. I meant that everything has spirit, so everything has to be killed. Come with us. Once we investigate the matter thoroughly, and if we are in the wrong, we will let you go and apologize. The two Immortal Dynasty law enforcers took away the corpse driving sect master who had a cultivation level higher than them but didn't dare resist. After the host of the third test was taken away, the test was cancelled. With their excellent performance in the first two tests, Zhongli and the First Emperor became the winners. Mission accomplished. Chapter 737, Crisis. FHF 5. LJ Chapter 736, Crisis. The Initiate Emperor had never thought that the system's tasks could be accomplished in this way. The feeling of achieving goals through the use of wisdom was quite pleasurable. As the most powerful figure, his strength was not simply limited to physical prowess. Intelligence was also crucial. Zhongli was quite pleased with the results of his guidance. He hoped the Initiate Emperor would realize that having power doesn't mean that it should be used continuously. The Initiate Emperor was a complex man, his achievements far outweighed his wrongdoings. If calculated by virtue, although his virtue did not surpass that of Zhongli and the sages, the amount was quite considerable. According to the standards of the underworld, the Initiate Emperor was good. However, those innocents who had been killed by the Initiate Emperor would undoubtedly disagree with the calculative methods of the underworld. Just as Zhongli respected the independence of each world, he also respected the independence of the parallel world. If this world did not have the Initiate Emperor, and the order established by the Emperor, chaos would reign. The Initiate Emperor had the ability to determine the state of affairs, and he feared no conspiracy or scheme. If it was Lutong or Bai Hongtu who were presiding over Zhouzhou, although they had enough prestige and means, they simply didn't possess enough power. Before encountering the Initiate Emperor, Zhongli had realized during his inspection of Zhouzhou that the Emperor was necessary, such was the characteristic of this world. If he was to send the Initiate Emperor to the underworld, then the only option would be to change him, and make him no longer bloodthirsty. The Initiate Emperor was counting the system rewards. He couldn't learn the puppet refining method. It was useless. 1 ton of blue steel, to enhance the puppets, was unnecessary. A copy of the Dragon Clan's body refining technique. After practicing, his body would become as frail as the Dragon Clan's. The rewards from the system were, as always, worthless. What exactly is the system? The Initiate Emperor asked. I don't know. Our Heavenly Tao said it felt familiar after seeing the system, but it was not created by him. Zhongli also didn't know where the system originated. Could it be the Heavenly Tao from the parallel world? The Initiate Emperor asked, feeling it was very likely. I don't think so. Zhongli said, the system can help me create the Ascension ladder and find the immortal realm. Why would the Heavenly Tao of the parallel world help me? Wait, you found the immortal realm using the system. The Initiate Emperor took notice of something Zhongli hadn't mentioned. The system rewarded the Ascension ladder, and with one step I reached the immortal realm. Zhongli didn't intend to hide anymore. How did you do it? I forced the system to complete the task through the enforcement of verbal commandments. It was taught to me by our Yu Yin. Why didn't Yu Yin teach me? His voice rose at the beginning of the sentence, then as if he realized something, his tone gradually lowered. By the time he said, me, his voice was barely audible. The Yu Yin in your world was not confined by me in the Imperial Palace, right? She had different experiences. Zhongli nodded. The Initiate Emperor was a smart man. Zhongli had previously mentioned giving Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin opportunities to develop, which could yield unexpected gains. Now he realized that this was what Zhongli meant. If Yu Yin had not been in the Imperial Palace, she would have already learned the enforcement of verbal commandments and reduced the time to find the immortal realm significantly. The Initiate Emperor was a proud and arrogant man. He believed his decisions were always right and rarely admitted mistakes. This time, he felt he was wrong. Come, I'll use the system to take you to the immortal realm. Seeing the Initiate Emperor showing remorse, Zhongli decided not to taunt him anymore. Zhongli enforced the verbal commandments, complete the special task, search for the shards of the Ascension ladder. The Initiate Emperor heard 3 prompt sounds of task completion by his ear, and 3 golden shards fell into his hand. They combined with the shards he already had to form a complete Ascension ladder. The golden ladder was small and exquisite, a crystallization of wisdom in the way of immortality, containing infinite mysteries. The initiate emperor finally saw the ascension ladder he had been longing for. Uninstall the system. A fluctuation appeared in the space within the initiate emperor's body, as if his location was embedded with another dimension. This was where the system resided. A milky white halo jumped out of the fluctuating space, with various Tao patterns interweaving, even more complex than the ascension ladder. The halo seemed gaseous yet solid, and with a crisp cracking sound, the halo split into several pieces. With continuous popping sounds like a chain reaction, the halo crumbled into dust and vanished completely. The initiate emperor's system was gone. Being rid of the annoying system was a joyous affair, and the initiate emperor decided to celebrate. Now, it's time to settle the score in the immortal realm. Zhongli was also ready to take a long-awaited trip to the immortal realm. Zhongli looked up, gazing at the skyline. What happened? The initiate emperor also noticed something and looked up at the sky. A vast shadow descended, colliding with the world of Jojo. Space shook, the earth trembled, and countless immortal power poured into Jojo. Hold. Zhongli enforced the verbal commandments to stabilize the space. The initiate emperor initially wanted to step in to stabilize the space, but seeing Zhongli had already made a move, he withdrew reluctantly. So this is the Jojo of that initiate emperor. Haha, how pathetically small. A voice echoed in the ears of the people of Jojo, grand and powerful, as if possessing boundless strength. This voice was not unfamiliar to Zhongli and the initiate emperor, it was the voice of respected God hidden. Immortal realm, it's the immortal realm. A cultivator inhaled the immortal power pouring into Jojo, recognizing the identity of the other world. At the gap in Jojo, countless figures stood, imbued with immense power. Each move they made resonated with an air of immortality, and even a soft whisper from them was like a clear spring, refreshing to the soul. Each figure represented the pinnacle of a cultivation method, something the future generations would find hard to surpass. Look, those are the immortals. The identities of these lofty figures were not hard to recognize. They were indeed the immortals. A field of immortals and Buddhas, shimmering in the distance. Just standing there, they were imposing and powerful. Zhongli and the initiate emperor realized what happened. Respected God hidden had actually used the immortal realm to collide with Jojo. Where is the initiate emperor? Let me see how you could defeat me this time after forcing me to escape so disgracefully. Respected God hidden led the group of immortals, followed by the ancestors. The ancestors did not attack the underworld. Or perhaps, after respected God hidden took the immortal realm and fled, he urgently recalled the ancestors that were in the river of time. Respected God hidden descended upon Jojo, looking to erase the humiliation of the past. He had the confidence to retaliate against the initiate emperor. After all, he was not alone, another version of him was present too. I didn't expect the Zhongli of your world to be this strong, said the other respected God hidden with a smile. After all, in his world, Zhongli was only a new immortal emperor, merely on the level of the immortal of the primordial chaos, and not much of a threat. There were two respected God Hiddens. Zhongli noticed that this was not the copy-like form as seen in the establishment of the three pure lands. It was the bona fide other respected God hidden. Respected God hidden held the winning ticket. Even if the initiate emperor was on par with him, how much growth could the emperor make in a year's time? On the other hand, the other version of him from a parallel world came to help, who would help clear obstacles. With both of them in combat, the fighting strength would double. What could the initiate emperor use to fight against him? Furthermore, this was Jojo, this was so-called initiate emperor's base. He didn't believe the initiate emperor could protect everyone. The advantage was his. Chapter 738. The Heavenly Tao's big move in the idol world. The incident started a year ago. Damn it. The respected God hidden vented his anger in the immortal realm. He murdered the Confucian sage who had been opposing him, leaving the deceived Buddha. Having suffered a great defeat, the respected God hidden had grown more human-like. The immortals trembled in fear, not because the respected God hidden was angry, but because they were terrified after being beaten by Emperor Chu. Though not an immortal, his combat strength surpassed that of an immortal. Killing Emperor Chu, defeating the Heavenly Tao, it was like a fairy tale. Since his birth, the respected God hidden had been inherently divine, untouched by all laws. Even when fighting against Tao ancestors, he had never been so embarrassed. Despite stepping in personally, the immortal emperor was still killed by Emperor Chu for the ludicrous reason of, "You are not worthy of being called an emperor." Emperor Chu became more vigorous as the battle progressed, his control of power reached the pinnacle, his spiritual energy was endless, giving a sense of never exhausting. Not to mention that during the battle, he was distracted by the chat with the heavenly Tao of a parallel world. Defeated again and again, the respected God Hidden knew that he temporarily couldn't defeat Emperor Chu and needed to shift his strategy in order to make a comeback. The respected God Hidden stabilized the immortal realm and contacted himself in the parallel world. Chat, what is there to talk about? The heavenly Taos got confused, unaware of what was going on with the 1320th heavenly Tao. What just happened? You didn't even have time to chat. Is there someone named Zhongli in your world? We teamed up to send a system to your world to close the time loop. It's strange, why is there no movement from the number 2400 heavenly Tao? Is the 2400 heavenly Tao there? The heavenly Taos wanted to claim credit from the 2400 heavenly Tao, but after waiting for a long time, there was no response, not knowing what he was doing. The heavenly Tao of the world of Emperor Chu was annoyed. It turns out the system is you're doing, the Zhongli you mentioned has the power close to heavenly Tao level, his sustainability is even stronger than mine, is it the same in your world, how did you win? The heavenly Taos were puzzled. Not really, he just has the power of a mixed origin primordial immortal, not very strong. In my world, he is not as strong as a Tao ancestor. In my world, he is just a little weaker than a Tao ancestor. After my training, his power surpassed that of the Tao ancestor. Having too much power is also not a good thing. What if he can't control it accurately? The heavenly Tao of the world of Emperor Chu listened for a long while but didn't hear anything similar to his situation. The heavenly Tao of the leisure man's world, also known as the 809th heavenly Tao, remained silent all along. The heavenly Tao of the world of Emperor Chu terminated the conversation in frustration, not understanding why his world was exceptional. It was like encountering the goddess Hu Tu. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became, eventually turning his attention to Du Yi. Without Du Yi withholding information about the Earth Vein, there would be no matters concerning Jojo, let alone Emperor Chu. The White Marsh clan, it seems that they are somewhat related to me as well. In my incarnations, one of them symbolizes the wisdom of the heavenly Tao, who mated with a mythical beast, and hence there is your White Marsh clan. The innate divine ability of the White Marsh clan, no secrets, and the trait of comprehending everything, all came from there. If you've made a mistake, considering you being a descendant of the wisdom of the heavenly Tao, I could spare your life, but this time you've crossed my line. The respected God Hidden harbored the idea of killing Du Yi. Now you say I'm the descendant of the wisdom of the heavenly Tao. Fake mercy. Du Yi sneered. He had long known about the origin of the White Marsh clan. He also knew he would not survive today and simply went on with a devil-may-care attitude. When did you defend us, the White Marsh clan, when the immortals see us as mythical beasts and oppressed us, claiming we are the descendants of the wisdom of the heavenly Tao? Even though I have become a heavenly immortal, the same rank of immortals still look down upon me. Where are the ones claiming we are the descendants of the wisdom of the heavenly Tao then? What is the use of my status as a descendant of the wisdom of the heavenly Tao? I've been trying to enhance the intelligence of the demon tribe, violating the 6 paths, allowing them to awaken their spirituality early, promote from the beast path to the human path. Yet even a tiny bit of merit was not granted to me. Does the heaven also think that beasts are inferior to humans and are not worthy of awakening their spirituality? Lu Wushanjin became the solitary minister of the immortal emperor. Do you think he was willing to? For us mythical beasts to become golden immortals, that's the only path we could take. And about the Earth Vein matter, do you think I didn't want to report it? The immortal emperor played with his authority and let Lu Wushanjin monitor the group of immortals. Lu Wushanjin took the opportunity to eliminate the dissidents. Everyone in the immortal world was alarmed, including Mingwo Shanjin. In order to protect himself, Mingwo Shanjin had to kill those who show signs of the heavenly Tao among his subordinates before Lu Wushanjin made a move. If I had reported the Earth Vein matter, I would be the first one to die. Emperor Chu is very strong, but I didn't expect him to be that strong. If I knew he was so strong that it would chill your spine, I would have given him the coordinates of the immortal realm long ago. The rotten immortal realm should have changed hands a long time ago. You are seeking death. The respected God Hidden was furious, and killed Du Yi with a single finger. The respected God Hidden wanted to cultivate and upgrade his cultivation level, but he found there was no cultivation technique of the heavenly Tao. In the final analysis, he is the sky, not a human, the end of the Tao, and doesn't need to cultivate in the first place. Just like that, a year passed. The respected God Hidden disconnected the immortal realm from the outside world, shut himself in, sought ways to become stronger, but made no progress in the end. Suddenly, the heavenly Tao of the parallel world contacted him. It was the 390th heavenly Tao. What's the matter? It's not good. The 809th heavenly Tao is killing us heavenly Taos, trying to be the last heavenly Tao when the rule of destruction arrives. What? The respected God Hidden shot up, thinking that he had heard incorrectly. There is no difference between the heavenly Taos. What does he use to kill us? Do you still remember Zhongli? Of course, I do. It was he who made me so miserable. When the respected God Hidden mentioned Emperor Chu, he couldn't help clenching his teeth. The 809th heavenly Tao also got a Zhongli, nicknamed Leisure Man, with heavenly Tao level power, and he never told this to anyone. He and Leisure Man Zhongli, acting at the same time, broke the boundary of the parallel world and arrived in the first world. What Emperor Shun mentioned about using space rules, time rules, and probability rules to reach parallel worlds was the most common method. In fact, there was another impossible method that Emperor Shun didn't know, which was that two heavenly Tao level powers could also break the boundary of parallel worlds when acting in unison. The reason why it's said to be impossible is that except for the heaven Tao itself, there wouldn't be a second heavenly Tao level power in a world. The 809th heavenly Tao and Leisure Man Zhongli together killed the heavenly Tao of the first world. That's when we realized that the method for us, the heavenly Taos, to enhance our power is to eliminate ourselves in the parallel world, to become the only one. I've also heard that this method was devised by Du Yi. Although it doesn't double the power gained by killing one heavenly Tao is enough for the 809th heavenly Tao to distinguish himself from us and become the most powerful heavenly Tao. Not to mention that the 809th heavenly Tao has killed more than one comrade. If he becomes the only heavenly Tao, his power may be 10 times what it is now. Chapter 739, Sky Desolate Halberd. Joining forces as Tao friends, gives us a tenfold fighting power, which isn't much, but the more Tao friends killed by the 809th heavenly Tao, the more it suppresses us, preventing us from unleashing our full power. Not many Tao friends know about this. I only found out when the 18th heavenly Tao sought my help. Why aren't you rushing to notify the other Tao friends? The respected God Hidden on the initial Emperor's side asked anxiously. It's too late, the 809th Tao friend already has the momentum, facing it directly would only lead to our death. Then, according to your insight, God Hidden knew the other party must have a plan, and one that involves him, otherwise, why not tell others? His counterpart laughed, the 809th heavenly Tao can kill other Tao friends, can't you and I do the same? That's impossible, with the intervention of parallel worlds, even communicating is the limit. It's impossible to cross over, let alone kill other Tao friends. If it was easy to traverse parallel worlds, heavenly Taos would have teamed up long ago, wiping out others one by one. Everyone yearns to create their ideal world as the only consciousness. To visit a parallel world, it requires the simultaneous intervention of two heavenly Tao level powers in the same world, at the same node. Only the heavenly Taos of idle worlds can achieve this. Isn't it also possible for you? The counterpart seemed to recall the battling process of the initial Emperor and the respected God Hidden. Didn't initial Emperor Zhongli leave an undischarged attack while he was fighting with you? The respected God Hidden hesitated. He did. Having fought countless battles with the initial Emperor, he released many skills. Some hit him, some went into the void, while others were intercepted by his Tao of Space. The attacks intercepted by the Tao of Space have yet to explode. The many attacks left during the chaos in the immortal realm, which are now just starting to erupt, seem to follow the same principle. You and that attack, strike together, to open a portal, and let me go through. Once I get there, we can overpower the initial Emperor Zhongli together, using the system to control him. If the 809th heavenly Tao can control idle Zhongli, we can control the initial Emperor Zhongli. The respected God Hidden fell silent. To dominate the initial Emperor, it would require two heavenly Taos to act at the same time. He would not be able to monopolize the initial Emperor. That was precisely why the other had contacted him. The other continued, then we also break the boundary of the parallel world, and kill the other Tao friends. As for who can become the only one under the destruction rule in the end, it depends on luck. Agreed. The respected God Hidden knew this was the best option. He believed that once they had control over the initial Emperor, the advantage would switch from Zhongli to him. In this way, by the time the rule of destruction arrived, only he and the 309th heavenly Tao would remain, significantly increasing the chances of survival. Respected God Hidden found the battle tactics left by the initial Emperor, causing it to explode violently while unleashing an attack of his own. Boom! The respected God Hidden blasted open a portal, connecting to the 390th parallel world. When the 390th heavenly Tao saw the portal starting to heal, he hastily stepped through. Pleasure doing business. Both respected god heathens bowed to each other, now able to see their promising future. Where is the emperor? Why isn't he kneeling before the heavens? The beauty of the heavenly Tao transcends all beings. Both respected god heathens are perfect beings with an ethereal beauty that is breathtaking. Their simultaneous appearance in the sky above Jojo even made people forget their origins for a moment, lost in the beauty of the heavenly Tao. It's heaven. Who is that? They're so beautiful. The moment when the respected god hidden appeared, all of Jojo fell into an eerie silence, which was immediately followed by frenzied exclamations. Eyes filled with madness, as though they could see nothing else but the heavenly Tao. Indeed, this was the case, the Tao's ultimate state, the forever pursuit, unseen by cultivators. It's natural to react this way when encountering the heavenly Tao. This was entirely uncontrollable. This was when the respected god hidden had held back. Tens of thousands of years ago, when the stunned immortal maiden came to Jojo, things were even more extreme. People said that her every frown and smile changed the course of Jojo. Back then, regardless of men, women, old, young, or what sort of creature they were, no one could escape the charm of the immortal maiden. Many people swore to dedicate their lives to her. Even the vitality of the trees was more vigorous, showing a stronger sense of existence. The appearance of the heavenly Tao is not a blessing, but a disaster. Who do I think it is, but the heavenly Taos fleeing from their homes, demanding the emperor to come? Doesn't everyone know the emperor is in another world? Bai Hongtu flew out from Tao sect, directly confronting the enemy. With a smile on his face, he seemed to be not afraid at all. Returning from a desperate flight, yet daring to return. Yu Yin flew out from the imperial palace, her face brimming with scorn, her voice cold, her mockery clear. The two of you should return where you came from. Don't kid yourself. Do you think that the assured victory of Jojo only lies within the initial emperor? Long-lasting immortal dweller worked hard to calm himself down, bluffing, hoping to scare off the heavenly Tao. Damn it, how could there be two respected god heathens here? How are they supposed to fight this? Leave Jojo. The immortal maiden veiled in white also appeared, standing in the front. In the absence of emperor, admired immortal maiden possessed the strongest power. The admired immortal maiden, on seeing god hidden, instantly understood how to control her charm. The beauty of the heavenly Tao, even immortals cannot hold back. She exuded charm on par with heavenly Tao, controlling all heavenly immortals and golden immortals in an attempt to get the immortals to counterattack the heavenly Tao. A few earth immortals and a heavenly immortal dare to be presumptuous in front of heaven. With a mere thought, god hidden broke immortal maiden's charm, returning the group of immortals back to normal. Although Bai Hongtu and the others smiled confidently, in reality, they were all terrified. Compared with the heavenly Tao, they were like ants. They had no means of resistance. Everyone assumed that the emperor was in the other world, even Yu Yin was no exception who had met Zhongli. The only tactic was to invoke the initial emperor's name. However, both respected god heathens were targeting the initial emperor. How could they be scared off by just his name? Heaven. Bullshit heaven. Tao is heartless. How emotion-filled are you two? How dare you call yourselves heaven? An authoritative voice echoed above god hidden, as if the owner of the voice was superior to the heavenly Tao. The initial emperor, dressed in imperial robes, had a stern face full of cold, and spoke in authority, showing indifference to everything, including the heavenly Tao, gazing down upon the world. This Jojo is mine, are you prepared to meet your end for daring to violate it? The emperor stretched his hand, summoning a long unused weapon. Halberd, to me. A large halberd flew out of nowhere, right into the initial emperor's hand. The initial emperor held the sky-desolate halberd tightly, awe-inspiring, his gaze firm. He was the ruler of this idle heaven. That day I hurried off to the immortal realm and forgot to bring my weapon. My manners were wanting. Today seems to be a good opportunity to return the favor. Upon seeing the sky-desolate halberd, both respected god heathens were taken aback. This was the remnant of Taichu, the most durable thing in all the worlds and heavens. Liquidating the Taichu remnant into weapon signified the consent of Taichu towards the initial emperor. Chapter 740. Never mind, I'll take action. The recognition of Chu Di by Taichu had no reason, it was simply an idea that emerged when the two respected god hidden witnessed the sky-desolate halberd. You must be aware, with their status, they would not have unfounded ideas. Otherwise, why didn't immortal Emperor Zhongli of the 390th world, and the idol Zhongli of the 809th, possess the sky-desolate halberd? The implications of Taichu's recognition remain unknown. Taichu was born before the heavenly Tao, he was deceased, but the whereabouts of the corpse remains unknown. Taichu's body was not under the control of the heavenly Tao. It has tried to find it, but it simply could not. In the dark, Taichu's body had an undefinable, indescribable mysterious power preventing it from being found. Theoretically, the remains of Taichu couldn't be refined, let alone forged into the shape of a halberd. All of this substantiates the claim that Taichu's remains recognized Chu Di. No worries, the characteristics of Taichu's remains only possess hardness, without any attached divine skills. The two respected god hidden quickly calmed down. Chu Di merely obtained a weapon and was still within their range of control. They also considered whether the sky desolate halberd, given its spirit and wisdom, had the potential to become the soul will. But this idea was quickly rejected. The rule of destruction could destroy the spiritual wisdom of the sky desolate halberd, posing no threat. You all stood up to protect Jojo, I'm very relieved. As long as I'm here, you can return to your respective positions and await my triumph. The giant halberd spanned the sky, distinctly dividing the immortal realm and Jojo. Bai Hongtu and others could not believe what they were seeing in Chu Di. When did Chu Di return to Jojo? Given his personality, he would surely declare his return to all of Jojo on a grand scale. Unbeknown to others, Chu Di had undergone changes. This was the first reaction from those familiar with Chu Di. The two respected god hidden wanted to control Chu Di by means of the system. As long as Chu Di utilized even the tiniest bit of the system's enlightenment or talent, they could, at the very least, influence the outcome of the war. You didn't use a single benefit provided by the system. No, where is your system? The two respected god hidden swiftly perceived the problem. Chu Di had entirely deviated from their plan. Not a single part of the system remained on him. Trash system, who cares for those rewards? Chu Di, brandishing the halberd, took the initiative to attack, facing two enemies without showing any fear. Boom! The deafening sound reverberated through heaven and earth. The combative alignment of the trio caused the world to change color, and the immortal realm trembled. With Jojo's faith in Zhongli's word, there were no issues. You're all here, have a seat, have a seat, have a seat, don't be shy. Zhongli fetched a few stone stools, warmly entertaining Bai Hongtu and others, as if he were the lord of Jojo. He should meet his old associates who have shown up. Zhongli steeped the elixir in water, making it his own tea. Your Majesty, Bai Hongtu and immortal elder Chengkun called out in surprise. Seeing Zhongli with such warmth, they thought Chu Di had developed a split personality. He is not the Chu Di you knew. Mentioning Chu Di, Yu Yin did not hide his disgust. What happened? Bai Hongtu and immortal elder Chengkun also sensed the problem. They had never heard of a personality split leading to physical separation. He's from a parallel world, inherited the title of Human Emperor, is the 72nd Human Emperor, and has never declared himself as Emperor. Immortal Elder, don't sit so close to Immortal Elder Red Dust. Seeing Immortal Elder Chengkun continually shifting his position, getting closer to Immortal Elder Red Dust, Yu Yin couldn't help but warn him. Zhongli simply moved Immortal Elder Chengkun and the stool to his side, making him sit face to face with Immortal Elder Red Dust across the table. Immortal Elder Chengkun was a man who knew the bigger picture. Even if beauty was before him, he shouldn't let loose in such a way, while Chu Di and the two respected god hidden were in an intense battle. Immortal Elder Chengkun felt that Zhongli possessed a magical power that could make people relax whenever he appeared. Any difficulty, any crisis in front of Zhongli seemed to not be a problem. These were feelings that Chu Di had never given him before. A parallel world. Bai Hongtu looked at Zhongli. The more he looked, the more he felt different from Chu Di. Seeing Zhongli was like seeing Chu Di when he was still a candidate for Human Emperor. No, he seemed even gentler than Chu Di at that time. Bai Hongtu had always thought that people with great power had a character like Chu Di, if not, they should have a higher demeanor as a minimum. The appearance of Zhongli completely overturned his cognizance. Immortal Elder Red Dust also had a good impression of Zhongli. Chu Di's possessiveness was too strong, causing her to feel uncomfortable. The three of them soon accepted the fact that Zhongli was from a parallel world. They had no choice. Although he looked identical to Chu Di, the personality differences were just too stark. They couldn't equate him with Chu Di and could only use the parallel world explanation. The Bai Hongtu in my world is much more tumultuous than you. Zhongli smiled. Bai Hongtu from Chu Di's world was exactly as he had anticipated, being calm and steady, or rather, lacking vitality. Even his features appeared more mature in this world. Differences are not necessarily bad. Bai Hongtu smiled, still somewhat restrained. Indeed, the Bai Hongtu I know looks as if he deserved a beating, always restless. He even thought about monopolizing the hawthorn tree so that I couldn't eat candied haws. You're much better than him on this point. Saying this, Bai Hongtu suddenly paused, his expression a bit awkward. Puzzled, Zhang Li asked, "What's wrong?" Yu Yin answered for Bai Hongtu. Chu Di had let old Bai handle many things, like exploring plans for the 10,000 realms, simplifying cultivation techniques, promoting education etc. Among these, one particular task specifically given to him was to cultivate high-quality hawthorn trees. And then what? Now, hawthorn trees automatically yield candied haws. General Lu contributed to this as well. Formerly, sugar was extracted from sugar canes, but now, it's peeled straight from the candied haw tree. There's also a popular saying among the common people, referring to Bai Hongtu as the Ha Minister. Oh, this would be a compliment. From Bai Hongtu's constipated expression, it didn't seem like he considered this as a compliment. Zhang Li, indeed, the differences between parallel worlds can be large. Hearing the sight of Chu Di holding the halberd, immortal elder Cheng Kun felt a bit sentimental. It has been a long time since I saw His Majesty using a weapon. Now that you mention it, I too haven't used the Sky Desolate halberd for a good while. With a sudden recollection, Zhang Li wondered. Ever since he used the Sky Desolate halberd in the sky as a nodal point, did he neglect it? Calculating the time span, it has been more than a decade. There really was no occasion for using the Sky Desolate halberd in battle. Besides, over the past 10 years, Zhang Li had also grown stronger. He feared whether the Sky Desolate halberd could withstand his full strength. The defining property of the Sky Desolate halberd is its indestructibility. Interpreted differently, if it becomes damaged, recovery is impossible. Forget it, no more experiments. Zhang Li had new moves like the Tai Seal, among others, that he had not used yet. There was no need for weapons. Your Majesty, can you win against two heavenly Dao? Bai Hongtu was worried that Chu Di would lose, resulting in Zhou's disaster. Zhang Li looked up at Chu Di, who was growing more and more brave and heavily wounded in battle, and shrugged. At least, he believes he can win. At the beginning, Zhang Li was thinking of intervening, but was stopped by Chu Di. Chu Di had plainly stated that he could face the two of them. Zhang Li chose to respect Chu Di's small wish. At worst, I can join the fight in the end.